Orochimaru throws Naruto aside and left him to fall to his death in the deadly torrent of the river right below them. And while this happens, Sakura and Sasuke turn and run away from Orochimaru as fast as they can while he watches Naruto fall to his doom. Unknown to him, then Naruto lives. With Naruto still unconscious. Naruto is being thrown around in the river and yet he's still knocked out. After a little ride down the river and several broken bones all over his body, he comes out in a hidden lake somewhere in the forest, but in the dead center of the lake is a deadly whirlpool that will suck anything in the lake to it. Unfortunately for our hero, he's the only one in the lake. He's sucked in and brought to a different place. Time skip, 10 hours. Naruto is starting to come to when he's hit by blinding pain in his chest. Naruto tries to hold in a yell of pain but failed. You could hear an echo of his scream all throughout where he was. After a minute or two, the pain slowly came down till it was just a dull ache. Naruto then attempted to sit up and succeeded after a few attempts. When Naruto looked up, he saw a pyramid at least 300 meters tall. This pyramid has 5 corners unlike the usual 4, and at each corner is a kanji for an element. And floating above the pyramid is 2 orbs, one black with a white dot and a white orb with a black dot, just like yin and yang. Naruto then started to inspect the outside of the pyramid and saw that it was made from tan stones coming to a point at the top. The entrance to the pyramid is a stone archway with kanji over the opening that says, God's Champion. What the? Where am I? Where is Sasuke team and Sakura-chan? Asked Naruto to himself. I remember that I was fighting with Orochimaru, then what happened? Moya hit me with a Gogyu Fuin 5-element seal. I think, oh well, might as well go inside the pyramid. It's not like anything will happen. So Naruto limps up the stairs as the Kyuubi hasn't healed him completely yet. Inside the pyramid. After Naruto stepped inside the pyramid, he found himself to be in a long tunnel with a light at the end of it. Naruto decided to go toward the light at the end of the tunnel. No, he's not dead. Which took him 30 minutes as he was still limping. At the end of the tunnel, there was a room that was located dead center of the pyramid. The room was a storage room from the look of it, as there was a lot of scrolls on the walls, most of them having the names of animals on them like tigers, bears, and dogs, and some had weapons on them, and there was another group with elements written on them. On the floor, there were 5 runes with different colors, and each color representing an element: orange fire, blue water, yellow lightning, brown earth, and light green wind. The runes for the representing elements came from their corner of the pyramid, and it led to 3 altars with scrolls on top. The altars were red at the bottom, gray in the middle, and black at the top. The altars were arranged so that they were in a triangle. On one altar there was a scroll that was black and had white lettering on it that said, Master Contract. The second scroll was white with red writing that said, Elemental Bender. The final scroll was red and had black writing that said, Weapons Master. Each scroll was glowing gray and emitting a low humming out. I wonder what all these scrolls are. Naruto asked himself while looking at the scrolls that had the animal names on them. They're summoning contracts, you fucking moron. Who said that? I did. Kyuubi. No, the rabid squirrel that lives in your head. Who do you think? Well, sorry, wait a second. How did you get in my head? Idiot, I am sealed in your mind. Oh yeah, so what were you saying before about the summoning contracts? Naruto said, having a brain lapse, forgetting about the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. Well, summoning contracts are scroll that allow human to summon animals, for example toads. So what can an animal the size of a frog going to do? Don't interrupt me, weak moral. Sorry, Naruto muttered. Now, as I was saying, you can summon animals and creatures, for example toads, the size of the Hokage Tower to the size of a regular toad. Each animal is different. Some can fly, others can swim. Master of Illusions, ECT. To summon an animal, you must have a contract for that particular animal. First, you open up the summon contract. Next, you cut your finger and write your name in blood on the contract. Finally, you place his blood on all your finger and put your bloody fingerprints in the square box below your name. After you sign the contract, you make the correct hand signs. So what are those scrolls with the names of different weapons on them? Those are storage scrolls, as the name implies it stores almost anything you can think of into the scroll. So what's so cool or special about storage scrolls? Those scrolls allow you to store equipment, as I said before. So instead of carrying a heavy backpack, you simply seal the backpack inside the scroll and carry the scroll, which weigh almost nothing. Plus you can store food, bottles of waters, and weapons. Yeah, that is cool. But wait, how do you get the stuff out? You just push Churka into the scroll and voila, you unseal the item. Oh, but wait, how do you get what you want out? Like if you seal water and food, how do you just get the water? There are about 20 seals in each storage scroll, and they are all identical, so you just seal water into the first seal and food into the second. Okay. Oh, okay, so what is the last group about? Oh, those scrolls I think contain all the ninjutsu for an element, so if it said fire on the scroll, it contains all the fire ninjutsu. Really, that's great, now I can be the strongest ninja in the world. Wait, there are 16 scrolls, shouldn't there only be 5? You know, fire, wind, water, earth, and lightning, because they are the only elements. There are more than the 5 basic elements, as there's a second and third group of elements, one being called subelements, and in this group of elements are ice, lava, sand, metal, wood, and storm. And the third group is rare elements, which consist of light, darkness, blood, poison, and gravity. Now, the most common kind of elements is the base elements, or the 5 that you first knew. Next, there's subelements, which are mixtures of the base elements, which are wood is mixed from earth and water, ice is mixed wind and water, lava is mixed from fire and earth, sand is mixed from wind and earth, metal is mixed from fire, earth, and water, and storm is mixed from wind, water, and lightning. And last, the rare elements are the least common, as the name states. And do you remember your friend with the pineapple haircut? I think his Shikamaru Nara. Yeah, what about him? The Nara clan has a bit of a rare element running in their blood. Really? Which one? They have the basics of darkness, which is to control shadows. A true master of darkness can summon massive amounts of darkness to control. The Nara clan's jutsu are limited to the amount of shadow they have around them. Oh yeah, remember when you said you could become the strongest ninja in the world? Yeah, what about it? You most likely can't, since humans are usually born with only an affinity to 1 or 2 prime elements, so you can't learn all the ninjutsu for every element. Damn it, oh well. So what are those scrolls on the altars, and why are they glowing gray and humming? Those scrolls are special in their own right, as it's said that these scrolls were made by the gods. The scroll that said Master Contract is a summoning contract that allows you to summon any animal, including the 4 sacred animals, which are the dragons, the ravens, the white tigers, and the phoenixes. These animals are the pets of the gods. The bosses of the 4 sacred animal clans rivals the power of the Bijou. One of the clans has the same ability as the god it serves. This clan is the ravens, and they have the ability to take out the soul of the opponent. The second scroll that said Elemental Bender will allow you to use all the elements, including sub and rare elements, I think. But I have to wonder, would that be painful? I mean, you have to change your chakra affinity to all of the elements, sub-elements, and rare elements. And the last scroll that said Weapons Master has special weapons sealed into it, and each weapon is said to have special abilities, such as eating chakra from the enemy, control lightning, or anything it hits/cuts doubles in weight. Anyway, each weapon is said to have a mind or soul of its own. So when you take a weapon from the scroll, you may hear the voice of the weapon talking to you. Very interesting, thank you for the info. Anyways, I am going to sign the master contract. Then I am going to master all the weapons in the scroll, and finally learn all the jutsu in the Elemental Bender scroll. Yeah! But wait, that could take years, and I got to finish the exam. Sigh. Well, I guess I could do this after the exam. Naruto said with enthusiasm in the beginning, then disappointment at the end. No, it won't, because in here time moves slower. Now, how long do you have till the end of the exam? About 60 hours left. That's good news for you. You have about 59 months to train before you have to go to the tower, as in here a month is an hour out there. Now I suggest we stick to a schedule so you can learn everything you can. Okay, but what will this schedule look like? Naruto asked, also thinking of a schedule. I was thinking you start with the master contract and summon each animal clan and learn about them, their powers, and history. On a side note to summon different animals, you cut your thumb, make the hand seals which are dragon, cat, snake, and fox. Think of the animal you want to summon, then slam your hand on the ground with the correct amount of chakra. When you first learn this jutsu, you'll have to say summoning jutsu, but when you get better, you won't need to. I think you should spend at least 20 months working on learning everything you can about the different clans. Then I think you should learn every weapon style there is in here to the point that you can run through the katas without having to think. I believe this will take you maybe 8 months. After you learn those, then open the Weapon Master scroll and practice the style with the weapon and try to get the weapons to allow you to be their wielder. That should take another 10 months. After the weapons, you should open the Elemental Bender scroll and let it change your chakra affinity to every element, and I believe that you'll be knocked out from the sheer force of pain. For it to change your elemental affinity, I believe that in a week you'll have them. Then you'll probably take a week to wake up from being unconscious and maybe another week or 2 for you to be able to use your chakra again. For 11 months you will learn every jutsu you can from the scrolls to the point that you need minimum hand signs or none. You can possibly create your own as well when I give you time to rest. By the way, shadow clones are unique, as when they're dispelled, everything they learned or witnessed is transferred back to the original. Kyubi finished his long plans. I count 50 months for all that training. What about the last 9? Naruto asked, actually having done the math. That I plan on using to increase your muscle, strategy, and increase your intelligence. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Did you just call me dumb? Naruto asked, putting on a childish pout. Well, now I am for that stupid pout you just put on. Stupid foxes and their intelligence. Naruto muttered to himself, but then a thought occurred to him. Wait, how can you talk to me now, and why are you helping me? Well, you remember when Orochimaru hit you with that jutsu? Yeah, well, it weakened the seal enough for me to talk to you. And why am I helping you? It is because I don't want to have a weak container. Okay, now time for training. Sasuke and Sakura walked into the tower after a few hours of non-stop running. They looked around and saw that they were inside a small room, and on the other side of the room was a banner that said something that they couldn't understand. Sasuke-kun, I believe that we have to open the scrolls, Sakura said, studying the saying on the wall. HN, replied Sasuke in his I don't give a shit mood. Sakura and Sasuke opened both the heaven and earth scrolls at the same time, and smoke began to rise from the scrolls. Sakura, throw it, it is a summoning scroll, yelled Sasuke. They throw the scrolls down and it lands in an X on the floor. Both scrolls started to smoke. Even more than a pop was heard from the smoke, signifying a summon. When the smoke cleared, it showed a figure that they both knew from their academy days, Irika. Hello, Sasuke, Sakura. Irika looks around to find Naruto when he's not found anywhere. Where is Naruto? Asked Irika. Who knows? The dope most likely died for being a dead last, Sasuke began but was interrupted. Actually, I'm right here, replied someone out of nowhere. They all turn around to see Naruto, but he was different. His hair was slightly longer and had streaks of green mixed with his yellow hair. His clothes were also different. Instead of his regular orange jumpsuit, he had a fishing net shirt, a red vest that had the God's Champion written on the back of it in white, black pants that has white medic tape wrapped at the bottom and a lot of slots on the sides for scrolls, and finally black combat shoes. Naruto also had a piercing glare on his face. Thanks for helping me fight that snake fag, you cowards, Naruto said suddenly to both Sasuke and Sakura. Well, we were going dash, Sakura started, but Naruto interrupts her. Shove it, you whore. You were watching your Sasuke-kun and didn't even bother helping a teammate and ran like cowards. After the Chunin exams, I'm requesting for a different team, Naruto said as he walked up to a stunned Irika, and his facial features lightened up. Hey, Irika-sensei. How are you? Irika just got out of his stupor. I'm fine, Naruto, but what happened to you? You seem different, Irika said as he looked Naruto over once. I'll tell you later. Now, can I get a room to sleep in? I'm wicked tired and I would like a good long shower, Naruto said, and to prove his point he yawned. Sure, follow me to your rooms, Irika said as he led Team 7 to their independent rooms, where Naruto was out as soon as his head hit the pillow. In 2 days, everyone who finished the second exam was in arena in rows of 3. The teams that made it were Team 7, 8, 9, Guy's team, 10, 1 from Sand, 1 from Sound, Kabuto's team, and a team from Grass. The Hokage stepped forward to make his speech. Everything that's said is the same and most of the fights. Kiba fights a grass ninja and losses as the ninja has a sword which he uses very well. And Naruto will be fighting 2 opponents and both are from grass. The screen rolled up 2 names, them being Naruto Uzumaki and my Nagari, and if someone has the name of the B users from the Bikoju mission, I'd be thankful if you could please inform me of the correct name. Naruto and Mai went down to the floor of the arena when a third name was being drawn. Rai Kusari. This'll be interesting, a 3-way battle in the prelims. Naruto said to himself as his other opponent joined the other 2 in the arena. Mai had blue hair that went down to her mid-back and dazzling silver eyes. Her face had a heart shape to it. Her clothing consisted of a loose tan jacket, black ANBU-style pants, and blue ninja shoes. Her headband was used as a belt. On her left hip was her ninja pouch. And she had muscles, but not the bodybuilder kind, but some that showed she didn't slack on her training. Rai was another story, however. His hair was in a crew cut and you could see that his was a dark color. His eyes were black and his face was muscular. He was wearing a red t-shirt, red ANBU-style pants, and black ninja sandals. On his back was a katana in a black sheath. His ninja pouch was tied to his right leg. He was very muscular, unlike his female teammate. Hello Grassnin, my name's Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said, sticking his hand out to shake with a soft smile on his face. Hello Naruto-san. My name's Rai Kusari. Let's have a good fight. Rai said, shaking Naruto's hand firmly and returning a smile. My name's my Nagari, Naruto-san, she said, shaking his hand. Nice to meet a beautiful girl like yourself, Naruto said, kissing the top of Mai's hand, making her blush, and her teammate chuckled to himself. Okay everyone, cough, ready? Hayate said to the 3 competitors. The 3 competitors nodded and jumped back from each other. Then begin. Where the sensei are. Kakashi and Kurenai were having a conversation as competitors made their way to the arena below. Kakashi, do you believe your student has a chance against those 2? I mean, they look pretty tough, Kurenai asked as she watched Naruto walk down to the arena. Well, you must remember that Naruto is the most surprising ninja, Kakashi replied back. Well, I think he'd only win if you gave him ANBU training. Back to the arena. I think I'll need to even the odds if I'm fighting 2 teammates from grass. Naruto bit his thumb, then made 2 hand seals and slammed his hand on the ground, and he yelled summoning jutsu, and a puff of smoke came after. When the smoke cleared, it showed a 6-foot brown praying mantis stood next to Naruto. Naruto-san, what is it you need of me? The mantis clicked to Naruto. Hello Sway. I would like to request some help for this match. You see that man over there with a sword? The mantis looked and nodded. Well, I'd like it if you could knock him out for me. The mantis nodded and charged Rai with speeds that makes Guy jealous. Well, now that your teammate is occupied, shall we? Naruto asked, who just charged at Mai with about mid-Chunin speed. Mai, however, just did 2 hand seals and said, Bee style, Bee hurricane. And hundreds of bees came out of her sleeves and rushed Naruto like a raging storm. Oh, a bee user, I haven't battled one of them yet. Naruto made several hand signs and announced Earth style, Earth skin. And that's when the bees swarmed Naruto, but there were no screams of pain, just the buzzing from the bees. When the bees went back to Mai, it showed Naruto unharmed. That was an interesting jutsu. Tell me, was that a clan jutsu or one of your own design? That's a clan jutsu, but I have created some of my own. Unfortunately, they're too dangerous to use at the moment because I have yet to master them. Mai said, a little proud of herself. That's excellent, as there aren't many people out there who can make their own jutsu. Congrats. Now, would you like to see one of my own design? Naruto asked as he did several hand seals and channeled lightning chakra to his palms and had it levitate above his hands and compressed it into 2 discs. Lightning style, lightning disc, and he threw the discs at Mai, who jumped to the side, and the discs collided with the wall and made 2 slots where the discs collided. That is a personal creation and one of my finest works, but I need to find a way to control its trajectory. Let us continue. Where the sensei are. You really gave him ANBU Black Ops training? Kurenai questioned in disbelief. What, no? If I did, I would have gave it to Sasuke since he has more potential. I don't know where he got the summoning contract for the praying mantis, and I didn't know there was even a contract for them. I didn't even know he had the intelligence to make his own jutsu, and I didn't get to copy it, replied Kakashi, who was sad at not being able to copy a jutsu to Kurenai. When the fight is over, I am going to ask him where he got the summoning contract. But for now, it looks like my student has the upper hand in the fight now. See, I told you Naruto was the most surprising ninja in Konoha. Kakashi told Kurenai. Back to the arena. Mantis versus Rai. Tell me, Mantis, what is your name? I'm Rai. Rai said as he drew his katana and got into a relaxed, ready position. My name is Sway. Let's have a great duel. Sway said as he readied his blade-like arms. They both nodded and charged each other. Blade met against arm blade and sparks erupted from both blades. They jumped back and charged again, but with speeds that made them blurry to all the genin, and some of the senseis could see them pretty well, but they were still a bit blurry. After a few minutes of this, they broke apart and they looked a bit beat up. Rai has a bunch of scratches and his clothes were torn to hell. While Sway didn't look any better, the mantis had a bunch of scratches and was bleeding from his shoulder. However, they didn't stop, they charged again to finish the fight with a tie between Bug and Man. Excellent battle, Rai. Make sure to have Naruto-san let you sign the mantis contract. I'd like a good sparring partner every once in a while. Sway said as Rai passed out and the mantis puffed out of existence. Naruto versus Mai. Well, it looks like your partner is out. That was a good duel between them. I think I'll let him sign the mantis contract. Anyway, back to our fight. Naruto said as he turned and started doing hand signs for a wind jutsu. When he finished, he shouted wind style, wind scythe execution, and a few blades made out of wind sped towards Mai, who rolled out of the way and commanded her bees to attack Naruto from behind. They got there but were stopped by him expelling wind chakra from his back and made the bees fly away. How the hell did you do that? Mai asked wide-eyed. I'll tell you that later, as there are too many people who would abuse this power. Anyway, I need to finish this. I'm sorry, Naruto said, as he drew out a scroll that said weapons on it and unrolled it until he found the kanji for the weapon he wanted. He bit his thumb and swiped it on the kanji, and out puffed a naginata like nothing seen before. The shaft of the weapon looked like it was made out of wood and was brittle as a piece of paper. At the bottom of the shaft was a spiked metal ball that has a flame-like design on it, and for the blade it looked like it was coming out of a dragon's mouth and was pure white, and it looked like the edge was serrated. Naruto disappeared and appeared a few feet behind her with the naginata on his back and him on one knee. He spoke one thing before Mai's world went black, naginata style. 1,000 cuts. To the spectators it looked like 1,000 cuts appeared on her body for no reason, and when she was about to fall, Naruto caught her and gently put her down on the ground, and waited for the medics to get there. When they did, he spoke to them. Mai just has a lot of cuts on her and is knocked out, and I believe her partner has chakra exhausted, Naruto said, then was called the winner and went up to the balcony with the other competitors to wait until he was needed again. Where the sensei are. As Naruto walked up to the balcony, he was stopped by Kakashi. Congrats on the three-way battle, Naruto. Kakashi, I smiled at Naruto, who looked at him blankly. Is there something you want, Hatake? Naruto asked with his voice devoid of emotion. It's Kakashi-sensei to you, and Kakashi was interrupted by Naruto. You don't deserve the title of sensei, as senseis teach their students, not leave two of them to fend for themselves. Now, what do you want, Hatake? Naruto said with anger present in his voice. I will not listen to that tone, Genin. I am a Jonin, and you will listen to me now. Where did you get the summoning scroll for the mantis and that weapon? Kakashi said forcefully, which in turn gathered everyone's attention unknown to Kakashi. The scroll I found in the forest after I fought of Orochimaru, and I gave it back to the Mantis clan. As for the weapon, a gift from the Mantis clan. Naruto lied and convinced everyone there. I want you to summon the mantis with the scroll, and let Sasuke sign it, then tell them to make him a weapon," Kakashi ordered. "I will not order my summoning contract clan to do what I want, and I will not let him sign the contract. These both are mine, and I will not let some weak Uchiha take them from me. If any Uchiha is gonna sign it, then it's gonna be Itachi, not Sasuke, as he doesn't deserve it," Naruto yelled at Kakashi, and Kakashi was getting glared at by everyone. "Genin Uzumaki, you will summon the scroll holder," and Kakashi was interrupted by the third Hokage. "Naruto will do no such things. He will let sign the contract when he wants someone to sign it. He will not be forced to let someone else sign it. Jonin Hitaki, you are out of line, and for that you are stripped of your sensei privileges, and are once again a Jonin for the village," Sarutobi said to Kakashi, who just bowed and disappeared. "Thanks, old man," Naruto smiled at Sarutobi, who just smiled back. "No problem, and if he ever gives you trouble again, just tell me." "Okay?" Sarutobi said to Naruto, who just smiled and nodded. Sarutobi went back to his spot in the arena and told Hay-8 to continue. "Okay, cough. Would all the cough winners please come to the cough arena floor?" Hay-8 said / coughed as the winners made their way down and stood in a straight line in front of Hay-8. Sarutobi joined the Hay-8 in the front. "I congratulate you all for making it this far. Now Anko here has a box with numbers in it for your first match in a month." "Excuse me, Hokage-sama? I don't mean to interrupt, but why wait a month for the final portion of the Chunin exams?" Temari asked. "Well, it's so the important dignitaries can get here so they can see the matches. Also, it'll give you guys time to train and hone your already existing skills. Now Anko will step in front of you with the box of numbers, and you are to take one, and when I say to read off your number." Anko stepped in front of everyone, and they took a number. Anko soon took her spot next to Sarutobi. "Naruto Uzumaki, read your number," Ibiki said. "Number 3. Sasuke Uchiha. 5. Shino Aburama. 7. Dosu of Sound. 8. Niji Hyuga. 4. Shikamaru Nara. This is all troublesome. Number 1. Temari of Sand. 2. Gaara of Sand. 6. Abara of Grass. 9. Kankuro of Sand. "Okay, maggots, look here," Ibiki bellowed as he showed them a piece of paper with their lineups on it. "The first match will be Shikamaru Nara versus Temari of Sand. The second match will be Naruto Uzumaki versus Niji Hyuga. The third match will be Sasuke Uchiha versus Gaara of Sand. The fourth match will be Shino Aburama versus Dosu of Sound. Match 5 will be Abara of Grass versus Kankuro of Sound. May each of you train hard in the coming month and put on a show for the dignitaries that are going to attend." Everyone dismissed, Ibiki bellowed as everyone disappeared a different way. Gaara disappeared in a swirl of sand. The Koona 12 disappeared by walking out the door except Naruto, who slipped into the shadows, and off he went unknown to him. A certain Nara and Aburama saw him. Naruto reappeared in front of the hospital in the shade of a tree. He looked over the white building and smiled, thinking, "Thank God it isn't me in the hospital this time." Then he walked inside and stepped up to the secretary. "Excuse me, could you tell me the rooms that my Nagari and Raikasari are in?" Naruto asked. Let me check," the secretary said after giving Naruto a kind smile. She started flipping through paperwork. After a minute, she looked up with a confused expression. "I'm sorry, I don't have them in our records of people in or who were discharged." That's odd. Do you know when the applicants from the Chunin exams who were injured would happen to be here?" Naruto asked. "Oh yes, I do. Check back here in about a day and they should be here." The secretary smiled at Naruto. "Okay, thank you," Naruto said as he turned around and left the hospital, intending on getting something to eat. Naruto walked to his usual eatery, Ichiraka's Ramen. After a few minutes of walk, he got to the stand and walked in, ringing a bell that's hooked up to the flaps on the outside. "Welcome to Naruto, is that you?" Ayam asked as she noticed his new clothes and hair color. Hey Ayam-chan, and yeah, it's me. I thought I could use a change. Anyway, 1 chicken and 1 pork ramen to start off, and where's the old man? Naruto asked as he sat down on the stool. Okay, I'll get it to you momentarily, and Dad's out getting spices from the market. He should be here soon. Ayam said as she went into the back to start preparing his food. As she was doing this, Naruto was having a discussion with himself. I have 4 weapons that do not accept me as their wielder, but all the others do, which is about 10 weapons total. I think Lee would do well with the claws, but they will have to test him. Naruto was mulling over the weapon that Lee should get when 2 people walked in and sat on either side of Naruto, and when he looked up he saw Shino and Shikamaru sitting on his left and right respectively. Hello Shikamaru-san. Shino-san, how can I help you? Naruto asked the 2 genin. We saw you use the shadow element. Would you care to explain? Shikamaru asked. You saw that? Shit, okay, but you can't tell anyone. Last time. Hello Shikamaru-san. Shino-san, how can I help you? Naruto asked the 2 genin. We saw you use the shadow element. Would you care to explain? Shikamaru asked. You saw that? Shit, okay, but you can't tell anyone. They both nodded and Naruto continued. I have the darkness element, which is a stronger version of the shadow element. Although I'm sensing that Shikamaru has the darkness element, but he's not using it for some reason. Am I right, Shikamaru? Naruto asks Shikamaru, who looks stunned. Yes, it's true. When my dad did my affinity test, it showed that I did indeed have the darkness element instead of the shadow element. But how did you know I have the shadow element? Shikamaru asked. A ninja's greatest skill is supposed to be information gathering. I just had to dig a little bit on all my friends. I know all of my friends' affinities. Shino, you have an earth affinity. Shikamaru has darkness, as we said. Sakura doesn't have one and leans more towards medical jutsu. Hinata is water. Tenten is wind, believe it or not. Sasuke has fire and is starting to develop a lightning affinity. Kiba has a lightning affinity. Ino has fire and surprisingly earth, and Choji has an earth affinity. Even though Lee can't use jutsu because of his condition, he has a fire affinity. Naruto said to both Shino and Shikamaru. That's interesting. Shino said as he took in the information, then a question popped into his head. Where did you find that summoning scroll? If you don't mind me asking, that is. I found it inside a cave in the Forest of Death after me and my team split up to cover more ground. I signed it while I wasn't with Sasuke because I knew he'd command me to have him sign it. And my Naginata is from the Mantis clan as a gift. Naruto told the 2. Troublesome, but I have a question/request for you. Could you teach me some darkness jutsu? My family doesn't have any as there hasn't been a darkness user for ages. Shikamaru requested. I can. What kind of jutsu do you prefer? Naruto asked as he took out a scroll and a pen and waited for his answer. What do you mean? Shikamaru asked. Naruto just sighed. Damn, you would have, though. Asuma would have explained different jutsu to you. Anyway, there are several different kinds. There are multi-target ones like water style, mass vortex. There's single target ones like fire style, grand fireball. These are target ones. Then there's teleportation like the darkness step you saw me perform earlier. Then there's support like lightning style, false darkness. Now which would you like? I could also give it a go at a new jutsu if needed. Naruto said as he listed the different types of jutsu. I'd probably want a multi-target jutsu that will help with disabling targets. But if not, then I'll take one that'll do heavy damage. Shikamaru said. Although that darkness step jutsu is pretty interesting, I've never heard of it. That's because it's of my own creation. I mean, it took me a few hours to get the basics for it, then to get the more complicated stuff, but I got it after a while. Anyway, I think I may have the jutsu that will be perfect for you. Also, I'll include the darkness step for you as you are a friend and ally. Now, Shino, is there anything I can do to help you? I mean, I'm helping Shikamaru with his darkness jutsu. Would you like some help with your earth chakra? Naruto asked as he wrote down the ideas for Shikamaru down on a scroll. I would ask of you to help, but I can't use chakra because of my insects. They constantly eat my chakra, so I can only use the E-rank jutsu that you learn from the academy. Shino told Naruto in his monotone voice. Have you ever thought of something to hold your insects in that will continue to give them chakra, but you have your own? Naruto asked the insect user. That's interesting, I've never thought of that. What do you have in mind? Shino asked. Yes, Naruto, that is an interesting idea. I mean, people outside the village know of the Aburame clan and their insect jutsu, and imagine their surprise when they see one perform an elemental jutsu. Shikamaru said, adding his 2 cents. Thanks both of you. Now I was thinking. Hokage's tower. Hokage-sama, why can't I take Sasuke on as an apprentice? One Kakashi Hatake asked as he stood in front of the Hokage. Because if you can't teach 3 students, what makes you think I'm going to let you teach just one? The Hokage told Kakashi. Because he's the last loyal Uchiha and he needs help mastering his Sharingan, and I'm the only one who can help him with it. Kakashi fired back. Well then I guess he can read some of his clan scrolls now, couldn't he? I'm sure that the Uchiha clan wrote how to use the Sharingan down somewhere. The Hokage said with a monotone-like voice. Fine, I'm out of here, Kakashi said as he just upped and left with a swirl of leaves. The old Hokage sighed, such disrespect nowadays. He didn't even say bye. Ramen bar. Okay guys, well, head to the library sometime this week and see how many of our ideas will work. And remember Shikamaru to practice those jutsu. Alright, I suppose it's time to go. I need to finish some training tonight, although if you guys want to join me then you can. I'll be at Training Ground 27. Thanks Ayam for the ramen, I'll be back. Naruto said as he paid for his meal and Shikamaru and Shino's as they had a bowl as well. Then he darkness stepped to Training Ground 27. Training Ground 27. Training Ground 27 was meant to be a training ground for all scenarios, well, except for the desert, as that is a different training ground, but it had a huge lake that extended about 300 meters. Then there were forests all around, then there was a clearing about 100 meters from the lake. All in all, it's meant to be an all-around training ground. Naruto stood in the center of the clearing, which was about 50 meters across, and was just sitting there meditating before he actually started training. He thought he'd talk to his prisoner before he did. Hey Kyubi, you awake? Naruto thought. Yeah, what do you want, brat? Kyubi replied. I was wondering what you thought of the ideas that Shikamaru-san, Shino-san, and I came up with today. I mean, this is all to help with Konoha, as if this works then we'll make some for Shino's clan, which will help majorly. Naruto said as he waited for Kyubi's thoughts. Well, the idea of ramen bar. And, as you can see, I want to keep this a surprise for the Chunin exams. Sorry for anyone who wants to know, but you'll have to wait and see. Do you think we should join him? I mean, it could help us in the long run. And contrary to everyone's beliefs, I do love to learn new things. Shikamaru asked Shino, who was contemplating the question. I believe that it would be beneficial for us if we did. I mean, we're all in the finals, but we can always give pointers to each other and make it an even more interesting fight if we ever fight in the finals. Shino said as he got up and started leaving, and Shikamaru got up and followed. Training Grounds 27. Shikamaru and Shino arrived at the training ground and found Naruto in the field sitting right in the middle meditating. Shino and Shikamaru walked up to him and tapped him on the shoulder. Naruto's eyes shot open and showed that Shino and Shikamaru were right in front of him. Naruto put one hand behind his head and chuckled, embarrassed. Hey guys, how long were you here? Naruto asked. Oh, not long, maybe 5 minutes at most, but not very long. Anyway, is your offer of training with you still open? Shikamaru asked Naruto. Yes, it is. But before we start, I'd like to say one thing. We're all in the finals, and if any of us has to face Gaara, then we need to be prepared. His sand will act like a shield, and if I'm guessing right, then if you have enough speed, then you can bypass the shield. So would you guys like to increase your speed just in case either one of us has to fight him? Naruto asked as he took out a scroll and opened it to show a seal array. I wouldn't mind having speed in case I fought him. And logically, if I had more speed, then the success of missions could be brought up by a big %. Shino said while Shikamaru just nodded. Okay, then this is a seal that will help by increasing the gravity around you by a certain number. I can also add weight seals that will help as well, and I can research on a few more if I have to. Maybe elemental seals on our palms can help a lot. Naruto said but muttered the last part to himself. I would like the seals, but could you explain the elemental seals to me? Shikamaru asked. Yes, the seals will convert normal chakra to whatever elemental seal I place on your palm. Like if I were to put a lightning seal on my palm and put chakra into the seal, then my hands would generate about 20,000 watts of electricity. A water seal would bring water from the atmosphere to the area to help with water jutsu. A fire seal would generate heat that's wicked hot, and an earth seal would make your attack strong and hard. And wind would make a blade of wind that can cut through anything. And the kicker is that they don't use much chakra, Naruto said as he finished up his lecture. Do you have any of the seals yet, Naruto-san? Shino asked as he thought about what seals to have placed on his person. Not yet, as I didn't have the supplies to do it in the first place, but now I can. I'm probably going to go with a lightning seal placed on my shoes and a pair of gloves that I should get now. Shadow clone jutsu, a clone popped into place. Now before I send my clone to get my gloves, would you guys like some gloves with an elemental seal on them? Shino and Shikamaru nodded and the clone took off to the nearest ninja clothing store. What about the gravity and weight seals? Shikamaru asked. The weight seals will be placed on our chests, ankles, and wrists, and they'll store chakra into them, so the weight will stay there. And when you need to quickly release the seals, then just make the ram hand seal and say release. The gravity seal will be placed over your heart so it'll have the max effect. To release the gravity seal, just do the same you would for the weight seals, and to activate them again, channel chakra into them to the amount you want. Naruto took a breath. Now who wants what and who's going first? Naruto asked as he took out a bowl, ink, and a paintbrush. I'll go first, I guess, and I would like both, Shikamaru replied as he stepped forward. Okay, now if you could please cut your hand and have your blood mix with the ink in the bowl, Naruto said, and Shikamaru nodded and cut his hand with a kunai and let the blood fall into the bowl. Naruto instructed Shikamaru to take his shirt off and roll his pants up so he could get to his ankles. Shikamaru complied and lay down, and Naruto mixed the blood and ink and got to work on making the seal. After a few minutes, the seals were complete and Naruto activated them, and Shikamaru could feel the strain on his body from both seals. You're all set. Now Shino, what would you like? I'll take both of them, Shino said as he took off his coat and rolled his pants up to the bottom of his shin. When he took off his coat, Naruto and Shikamaru could see all the minuscule holes that were placed all over his chest except the spot right over the heart. Naruto took out another bowl and put some ink in it. Now Shino, could you please cut your palm and let the blood flow into the bowl? Shino did as he was told and lay down while Naruto placed the seals on his ankles, wrists, and over his heart. Naruto activated them and Shino could feel the stress it put on his body. Okay, now they're both active and I'll have a clone put them on me while you run around to get used to the weights, Naruto said, and Shino and Shikamaru nodded and started running around the field, unknown to them that Naruto already had the seals placed on him and increased them just barely. Time skip, 2 hours later. Great training today, guys. Now I'm going to head home and get some rest, Naruto said as he started walking away after Shino and Shikamaru said their goodbyes. When Naruto entered his apartment, he showered and went to bed. Time skip, 2 days later. Hospital. Naruto walked into the hospital up to the secretary and asked, "Excuse me, where would my Nagari and Raikasari be located?" The secretary looked up and noticed Naruto and smiled. As hello, Naruto-san. Let me take a look for you. The secretary looked through some paperwork and found the room. Okay, they're in room 230 on the west wing, but I must advise you be quiet, they were still unconscious from the exams, she said, and Naruto just nodded and walked through the hospital until he reached the room that held the two ninjas from grass. He lightly knocked before entering and heard a very faint, "Who is it?" Naruto smiled. "It's Naruto Uzumaki from the Chunin exams." Naruto replied through the door. "Naruto-san, come in." Naruto opened the door to see two beds, one belonging to Mai, who was sitting up in her bed, and one belonging to Rai, who was lying down but up. "Hey guys, how you feeling?" Naruto asked as he sat between the two beds. "Tired as all living hell, but better than I did yesterday. Damn, that Mantis is one hell of a fighter." Rai said as he chuckled. Naruto joined after a second. I'm just a little sore is all. Thanks for asking. Anyways, what are you doing here? I would think you'd be training for the third part of the exams. Mai asked as she looked over to Naruto. I'm gonna go training later, but I thought I'd take a small break and see some new friends. By the way, Rai, what do you think of the Mantis clan? I think they'd make great sparring partners and some great allies in the future. By the way, Sway said you should let me sign the Mantis contract. And friends. Rai told Naruto, then asked at the end. As soon as you're out of the hospital, I'll let you sign the contract for the Mantis clan, and yeah, if you want to be friends and allies, that is. Naruto said as he stood and put his hand out to Rai, who grinned and shook it. Sure, I'll be your friend. I think that would be awesome. Plus, I think you could help me with some projects of mine involving Kenjutsu. Rai exclaimed as he let go and leaned back into the pillow. Sure, I'll help with them. Anyways, what about you, Mai? Wanna be friends? I could possibly help with some of your bijutsu. Naruto said as he extended his hand out to Mai, who smiled and shook his hand, albeit weakly, as she was still sore. Okay, anyways, I got to get going. I'll be by later to check in on you guys. But before I go, Mai, would you like to do something later? Like diner or a movie? Naruto asked as he stood up and smiled. WW what? Why you mean L like a D-date? Mai stuttered and blushed. Naruto smiled. You like a date? I know a few spots that has great food. Naruto said as he continued to smile gently at Mai. And Mai, not trusting her voice at the moment, just opted for a nod. Okay, then I will meet you here once you're released. Anyways, I gotta go do some training. I'll catch you guys later, Naruto said as he walked out the door. Rai turned to Mai, who was still blushing up a storm. Well then, you have a date from a leaf ninja, and the one that beat you in the preliminaries. How do you feel? Rai asked as he was trying not to laugh. Mai just glared and turned her head as she just mumbled something about being tired and wanting to go to bed. Rai just nodded and laughed on the inside. Naruto Uzumaki, you are defiantly a different character than I originally took you for, Rai thought as he fell back asleep. Day of the Chunin exam finals. Naruto was walking to one of the biggest events of his life, the Chunin exams, albeit he's only lived for about 13 years, but still. Naruto was walking along the streets when he thought of everything that's happened over the course of the month. Him actually getting a girlfriend. This thought brought a smile to his face. He asked one girl to a date and she said she'd like another a week from that time. After that second date, he asked if she'd like to be his girlfriend and she said yes. Flashback 2.5 weeks ago. Naruto was on his way to pick up his date for the evening at her hotel where she was staying for the Chunin exams. He was wearing a black dress shirt with the top 2 buttons undone that was tucked into a pair of black dress pants. This was finished with a pair of good-looking shoes. In his hands was a bouquet of flowers for his date. Now Naruto is almost never nervous, not when he trains, not when he stands in front of the council, not even when he's being punished for one of his pranks. Now this was his second date in his life and he wanted this one to be pulled off without a hitch. It was around 6 o'clock and he had about an hour before the sun went down. I hope she likes today's date. God, I'm so freaking nervous, Naruto said as he had approached the hotel his date was staying at. He passed the secretary saying that he was just here to pick up his date. He arrived at his date's door a minute later and paused. He took a deep breath to calm himself down and knocked 2 times. When the door opened a minute later, it showed a young woman in a white dress that went to the middle of her thighs that showed her elegant leg, and the dress itself was strapless and had the design of a bee on it. And, bet you couldn't guess, huh? LOL. Her blue hair was tied into a single elegant bun on top of her head, and she was wearing red lipstick and some eyeliner. On her feet she wore black high-heeled shoes. Naruto's jaw was now onto the floor, and he was still standing up, which caused the woman to chuckle and close his mouth with her pointer and middle fingers. I'd close your mouth or you would start catching flies, she chuckled. Wow, you look beautiful, Mai, Naruto said as he composed himself and handed her the flowers. These are for you. Mai took the flowers and sniffed them and smiled. Thanks for the flowers. Let me put them in a vase before we leave, Mai said as she turned and went back into the room and came back out a minute later. Naruto offered her his arm and asked, "Shall we go, madam?" Mai laughed and slung her arm through Naruto's, and they left the hotel and walked around the village for a few minutes before Mai noticed they weren't going to any restaurant as they were in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Naruto-kun, where are we going?" Mai asked as she looked around. Naruto just chuckled. "Wait about 2 more minutes and we'll be there. It's right up ahead," Naruto said, and Mai nodded and waited. When the 2 minutes were up, they walked into a clearing and noticed that they were on top of a mountain, but not any mountain. It was the Hokage's mountain. And right in the middle was a picnic basket on top of a black and white checkered blanket. Naruto took his arm back as he walked over to the basket and folded the blanket out and put the basket in the middle of it. He then walked back over and guided her to the blanket and sat down, petting the spot next to him. When she sat down, he started unpacking the contents of the basket, and she was amazed at what was inside the basket. Inside the basket was chicken with mashed potatoes, gravy in a thermos to keep it warm, a small salad, and to finish it off, some chocolate cake with vanilla frosting. Truly amazing, Naruto smiled. "Well, don't just sit there admiring the food, go ahead and have some. I made everything myself," Naruto said as he grabbed a plate and started putting some food on it when a thought came to him. "Oh yeah, I brought some honey for your hive as well. I thought they'd like something," Naruto said as he unsealed a huge-ass pan full of honey and placed it down, and the next thing he saw was bees swarming the pot. "I think you're their new best friend. They love honey, but I haven't been able to give them any for a while. Anyway, did you actually make this yourself?" Mai asked as she bit into a piece of chicken and swallowed. "I made most of it. I kind of had to ask for a little help from a friend with the cake, though, as I'm not so good with desserts for some reason," Naruto said as he also started eating. Mai just laughed and made herself a plate and started eating. They had a comfortable silence through dinner until Naruto looked at the sky. He then smirked and told her to turn around. When she did, she was amazed. The village was cast with an orange glow from the lighting from the setting sun. The only word that came out of her mouth was "amazing." Naruto chuckled and went to sit next to her and wrapped his arm around her waist, and she leaned into him. They sat there for a few minutes just watching the sun set until Naruto turned to her and asked her something he thought he'd never have the courage to do. "Mai, would you be my girlfriend?" Naruto asked as Mai turned her head toward him and nodded and kissed his cheek. Flashback end. Ever since then, they've been going strong, seeing each other whenever they could, which was every day. At this moment, Naruto was walking through a training ground that was supposed to be an open grass field, but the problem was it wasn't a grass field anymore. It was more of a dirt field, as all the grass was destroyed or upturned. This brought up another memory that Naruto wasn't too fond of. Flashback 1 week ago. Naruto was headed over to the Hokage's office as he was just given a message by an ANBU saying the Hokage would like to see him. When Naruto entered the tower, the secretary told him that the Hokage was free and would see him now. When Naruto got to the door, he could hear crying, and when he knocked, he heard the command to enter. When Naruto walked into the office and closed the door, he was immediately tackled by his girlfriend, who started crying even harder. When Naruto looked around the room, he saw that it was the grass team from the exams, Rai and his teammate Sigu Suzumabachi, which is Mai's brother, and it turns out that Mai and Sigu hid their names to hide in the village, and their team's sensei Zeke Naraki. Everyone had grim expressions on their face except for Mai, who had her face buried in Naruto's chest. "Hokage-sama, what happened and why is Mai crying?" Naruto asked in a serious tone and held Mai closer. "Naruto, what happened and why Mai is crying are one and the same. The village hidden in the grass was destroyed," Sarutobi said as he turned and looked out the window behind him. "How and when?" Naruto said as he held Mai even closer. "If that's possible. My scouts report of a giant crevice that looks like it's been dug by a snake, so we guess that it's Orochimaru's doing. And when we can't be too certain, but if I were to guess, I'd say about a week ago," Sarutobi said, not even looking at Naruto. "Well then, would you guys like a place to live? I own the apartment building that I live in, as no one wants to live there with me," Naruto asked, shocking everyone in the room, even Sarutobi. "Why would you offer something like that to people you don't even know?" Zeke asked as he gave Naruto his undivided attention. "'Cause I don't like seeing people suffer, and plus there's more than enough room at the complex," Naruto said, and Rai turned to him. I'm in, but eventually I'd like to go back to the village to collect what I can. Rai said, and everyone else nodded, but Zeke had a question he wanted answered. Hey Naruto-san, why don't people want to live with you? Zeke asked, not knowing what would happen. Naruto looked over to the Hokage, who just nodded, still looking out the window. No one wants to live with me because I'm the jailer for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Now if you want to kill me, then I will allow it. Everyone in the room just stared at him until they all heard a smack and saw my glaring at Naruto through teary eyes. You Korsabaka, why would I want to kill you just because you house a demon? You are like me and the Aburame clan in a way. So why would I kill you for it? And I wouldn't kill the person I love. Mai said as she just went back to hugging him and crying into his chest. Everyone around him just nodded, agreeing with what she said. Okay then, how about we get you to the apartment building so you can look for a good room, and by the way, if it looks like crap on the outside, wait till you get inside, it's a lot, and I do mean a lot better inside. Naruto said as he scooped up Mai and carried her bridal style out the door with everyone following. End flashback. Ever since then, the grass team has been living in the apartment complex except for Mai, who lives with Naruto in his room. By this time, Naruto was just outside the arena and thought he'd make a flashy entrance. Naruto grinned and jumped to the top of the arena and saw that everyone was there besides him, Sasuke, and the mummy dude from Sound. Naruto smirked and sat there until the Hokage stood to speak to the crowd. And everything said is the same. Now will everyone but Naruto Uzumaki and Neji Hyuga please go up to the spectators area? Genma said as everyone left but him and Neji. The next thing anyone knew, a three-pronged shuriken landed next to Neji, and 2 seconds later, a burst of lightning hit the ground and showed a figure that surprised everyone that a random person knew the fourth Hokage's jutsu. The figure stood at about 5 feet 9 foot and had blonde hair with green highlights that was tied into a single ponytail down to his mid-back. He wore a black G-top with the kanji for God's Champion and wore black ANBU style pants with a lot of slots for scrolls, and to finish it off he wore black steel-toed combat boots. His face was muscular and held 3 whisker marks on each cheek. His eyes were the bluest blue you'd ever see. Once they saw his face, everyone knew who he was. Naruto Uzumaki has arrived. How do you know the Flying Thunder God? Genma asked through his shock. That was not the Flying Thunder God, that was my Flying Lightning God, which yes is based off the fourth jutsu by mine, has a kicker to it that no one knows about. Anyway, can we start the match? Naruto asked as he popped a few joints in his neck. Okay, Naruto Uzumaki from Leaf versus Neji Hyuga from Leaf. The first battle of the third part of the Chunin exams. Begin, Genma yelled, and as soon as he did, he jumped back, and everyone was sitting on their seats wondering what would happen, knowing that someone had a knockoff of the fourth Hokage's prized jutsu. In the arena, the combatants were just staring at each other until Neji smirked. Give up. Fate has declared me to be the winner of this match. Some no-named orphan can't win against a member of a prestigious clan, even if you do have a mock-up of the fourth Hokage's jutsu. Naruto made no move to do anything while Neji just kept gloating. You go around shouting of how you're going to become the Hokage, but fate says that a no-named orphan can't. You know what? I'm going to become Hokage just to smite you. Neji gloated for the last time as Naruto had it and charged forward at Kage-level speeds and delivered a punch to Neji's gut and sent him flying into a wall and create a dust cloud from the wall. When the dust cloud cleared, it showed Neji fine, although his clothes were pretty fucked up. Neji just started at Naruto until a smirk came to his face. That was a girl's punch compared to what I have to go through on a daily basis. Now, as I was saying, you will never become Hokage over a prodigy like me. Neji said. This time Naruto made no move but to bite his hand and slam his hand on the ground. And a puff of smoke erupted afterwards. When it cleared, it showed 8 raptors in a circle around Naruto. Naruto looked around him and said one word that made the raptors move at unrivaled speeds. Scatter. The raptors were off and hiding somewhere on the field where no one could see them, not even the Hokage or Kazekage. Naruto sent an ice-cold glare at Neji. I'm going to become Hokage, but not through being a prodigy. Oh no, I'm going to achieve that through hard work. And you may think that you've had a hard life. That's bullshit. You have the protection of a clan while I don't. Naruto all but shouted. I am not protected by that clan. I'm marked by the Hyuga clan with a seal that makes me a slave to the main house. Neji told Naruto as he removed his headband and showed Naruto a green X with two hook-like marks on either side. This is a caged bird seal used by the Hyuga clan to mark the branch members into a life of servitude for the main branch. And I don't want to rewrite his whole damn fate did this to me and fate did that to me speech, so if you don't know it, find it on YouTube. So you say I don't know what it's like to be marked with a seal that you had no power in preventing? That is where you're wrong, Neji Hyuga. I do know what it's like to have a seal. I do know what it's like to be hated. Naruto took off his shirt and vest and channeled chakra into his abdomen. Then Naruto yelled, "Does everyone see this seal? This is the seal that damned me in the first place. This is the seal that caused so many beatings by every civilian in this crowd that's from Konoha. This seal makes me the jailer for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The strongest demon to live, and everyone from Konoha except a few that I can count on one hand thought I was the Kyuubi incarnate. But would a demon take all those beatings and do nothing in return? No. Because of the Kyuubi, everyone lost someone who they loved. I lost my parents who I never met. I lost my chance at happiness. I was denied to go into some stores because of the Kyuubi, and if I was let into stores I would be sold faulty equipment for triple the price or sold me expired foods for the same. The only people who actually sold me anything were the Dragon's Wings weapons store and Ichiraku Ramen. Now there are people who care for me." Naruto looked until he found Mai and smiled at her. She smiled back and mouthed, "I love you." Then he looked for Shino and Shikamaru, who just nodded and smiled, knowing that he's not the demon. Then he looked to the Hokage and saw he gentle smile. "Those people who care for me are very precious to me, and I'd go to hell and back to make sure that their dreams are accomplished before mine. Now who thinks they've had a worse life than mine? Neji, today I'm not just going to defeat you. I'm going to rip that fate stick out of your ass so you can see the light." Naruto finished his speech and everyone looked shocked at him. But before they could contemplate anything, Naruto pointed his fingers and said two words, "Get M." After that, the previously concealed raptors jumped out of their hiding spots and charged Neji with Jonin-ranked speed. Neji paled, then activated his Byakugan and started dodging and counterattacking whenever he could. This happened for a few minutes until all the raptors charged Neji at once and Neji started expelling chakra from all his chakra points and rotating. While yelling rotation, the raptors were blown back and dispelled. Neji looked over to Naruto and saw him standing there smiling. "What the hell are you smiling at? You won't win. I'm not even tired, that was just a small workout for me," Neji said as he charged Naruto, not waiting for an answer. When Neji was about to strike Naruto, Naruto simply disappeared, only to reappear behind him in a flash of lightning and sent out bolts of lightning at Neji, only for Neji to jump out of the way. "This is what I'm smiling at. You see, the fourth Hokage's jutsu was indeed powerful, but mine is a shitload more powerful. If you wanted, you could call mine the successor of the Flying Thunder God. You see, every time I appear, if I will it, I can send out lightning bolts with about 40,000 watts of electricity. Now if that were to hit you, you'd definitely have a bad hair day. Now let's play," Naruto said as he disappeared and attacked Neji from his left, and Neji tried to attack back, but Naruto just disappeared. This kept on going for a few minutes until Neji got sick of it and yelled, "Come out, you damn coward. Some Hokage you'd make if this is what would happen. You try to attack then run. Ha, I'd make a better ho." Neji was interrupted by a chakra blast to his gut, which was incidentally the center of his chakra coils. When Neji looked up, he saw that Naruto wasn't very happy. This was confirmed when Naruto sent a powerful chakra-enhanced punch at Neji's face and sent him to the other side of the arena and effectively knocked him out. Genma came out of his shock enough to declare Naruto the winner, and Naruto went and returned to the balcony with the other contenders. "Okay, now would Gaara of the Desert and Sasuke Uchiha of the Leaf please come down to the floor?" Genma yelled as he went to the center of the arena. Gaara body flickered there while Sasuke has not yet shown up. "Sasuke Uchiha, if you are not down here in 30 seconds, you will be disqualified," Genma yelled after a minute of waiting, and that's when everyone started yelling to postpone the second match because of the great Uchiha. Naruto got fed up with this and jumped down to the arena. "You all say you want to post the Uchiha's match? Well, I say disqualify him. What has the Uchiha ever done to any of you? I mean, the clan when it was alive was indeed powerful, but all they did was steal other people's jutsus and skills that they worked hard on. Is that what anyone here wants? How many ninjas here have been asked by the Uchiha to allow them to copy their jutsu? I only know of 2 personally that asked before they copied, and even then they mastered the jutsu after they copied it. These 2 Uchihas are Itachi and Sisui, the later of the 2 being dead. But the point is they asked if they could copy someone's jutsu if they were friendly and mastered said jutsu. Sasuke, on the other hand, has stolen jutsu from people of his own village just so he can get power. Is that who we want leading teams? I don't think so. Naruto yelled, and even though everyone hated Naruto, they all agreed with him, even the lords of the countries currently there. The Hokage stood and yelled, "As of this moment, Sasuke Uchiha is disqualified from the Chunin selection exams. Now on to the next match." Sarutobi yelled and sat back down. And the matches are all the same except for Sigu, who got an automatic pass to the next round. Shino and Shikamaru still won, but Shino has yet to show his secret. Genma took the center again and announced, "Will Naruto Uzumaki and Gaara of the desert please come down?" And when he finished that, a swirl of leaves erupted and showed Sasuke Uchiha and Kakashi Hatake. And they are wearing the same thing as in the anime. "Sorry, are we late?" Kakashi said sheepishly as he put a hand behind his head. "Yes, you are, and the Uchiha has been disqualified. Now leave the arena, we have another match to get underway," Naruto said as he stood across from Gaara in the arena. Sasuke glared at Naruto. "They cannot disqualify me. I am an Uchiha, the elite of Konoha," Sasuke declared as he glared at Genma to confirm what he said, until Genma just shook his head in the negative. "Sorry kid, the Hokage personally disqualified you. Now please leave," Genma said, and Sasuke turned and glared at Naruto. Finally he snapped and charged at Naruto. "This is your fault, isn't it?" As he reached Naruto, he found that he was missing his right arm by a black katana. He finally registered that he was missing an arm and let loose a guttural scream of pain. "What have you done?" "I have taken your ability to be a ninja away," Naruto said calmly as he wiped the blood off his blade. Before Naruto knew what was going on, he was surrounded by ANBU. "Naruto Uzumaki, you are under arrest for the unlawful act of maiming Sasuke Uchiha," one ANBU said, and Naruto just smirked. "This is your fault, isn't it?" As he reached Naruto, he found that he was missing his right arm by a black katana. He finally registered that he was missing an arm and let loose a guttural scream of pain. "What have you done?" "I have taken your ability to be a ninja away," Naruto said calmly as he wiped the blood off his blade. Before Naruto knew what was going on, he was surrounded by ANBU. "Naruto Uzumaki, you are under arrest for the unlawful act of maiming Sasuke Uchiha," one ANBU said, and Naruto just smirked. "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be arrested. According to the law set by the Lord or Fire 2 years ago, if someone were to attack someone and they deem the attack life-threatening, then they may retaliate in any way they may see fit. I thought that taking his arm off was a fit manner to deal with him, and there's nothing the village council can do about it," Naruto said as he disappeared outside of their circle of weapons and appeared about 20 yards away from them. The ANBU just turned toward him and took up on guard stances. Before anyone could do anything, 3 people appeared in the middle of the arena by walking through the huge doors. The first person who walked through the doors wore a fiery red cloak with a Kage-like hat on, but instead of Hokage written on it, it read Lord or Fire. He looked like he was in his 40s, but he carried himself like he could take on the world. His face was that of a regular 40-year-old, minor wrinkles, what a 40-year-old man looks like. He has silver hair as far as Naruto could see, as his head was covered by his hat. Nothing else could be distinguished about his, as his cloak obscured everything from his neck down. This was the Lord of Fire. The second person wore a navy blue cloak, like the first, and a Kage hat, but his said Lord of Water. Like the first man, Naruto couldn't see anything from his neck down because of his cloak, but the Lord's face was unmistakable. The glasses and the graying beard, yup, this was defiantly Tizuna. The third man wore a bright yellow cloak and a Kage hat with Lord of Lightning on it. Like the first two, his body was covered by the cloak. His face, though, was covered by a half-mask that no one could see through. Not even the Hyuga, but his hair was sun-kissed yellow, just like Naruto's. The three men walked up to Naruto and surrounded him. Everyone in the audience started cheering and started yelling things like, "Make the demon pay for harming Uchiha-sama," or "Kill the demon." The lords just ignored them and continued to look at Naruto, who just barely realized who these people were. He bowed low to the ground. "I'm sorry, my lords, I did not recognize you at first, or I would have bowed as you entered," Naruto said from his spot on the ground. The lords just looked to each other, then looked at Naruto, who had his head bowed. The Fire Lord spoke first. "Rise, young Uzumaki. We are not upset with you. We wish to merely congratulate you on your first match against the prodigy of the Hyuga clan. And we wish to say we're sorry for the torment that you've went through, even in the village that I supply with money. You kid, and if I had a ninja village in my land, I would immediately request your transfer to my village for all of the abuse you've had to deal with, even though you're the hero for Wave," Tazuna told him, but yelled the last bit for everyone to hear. "I know your father would be proud of how you grew up. You just took the abuse and gave none in return. My brother definitely chose well when he picked the container for the most powerful beast alive," the Lightning Lord told Naruto as he looked at him. Naruto's head shot up when he heard of how his father would be proud of him. Naruto asked in a shaky, whisper-like voice, "Do you know who my parents are?" Both the Fire Lord and Lightning Lord looked to each other and nodded. They returned their stare to Naruto, who had an excitement-type look on his face at possibly learning who his parents were after so long. "Yes, we both know who they are. And we'll tell you. Your mother was a beautiful redhead with bright green eyes. She was nowhere near a fangirl that has shown up in Konoha's history. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, Konoha's Red Death," the Fire Lord told him while Naruto looked to him to continue. "Your father, on the other hand, was possibly the strongest ninja to live up to date. He was a sun-kissed blonde like you and had the deepest blue eyes possible. He was the biggest prankster I have met. Your father, my brother, is Minato Namikaze, Konoha's Yellow Flash." Naruto had the most shocked look in the arena. After a few seconds, everyone in the audience decided to start yelling things like, "That demon can't be the heir to the Namikaze clan," "The demon spawn is no Namikaze," or "Stop corrupting the lords." After a few minutes of this, the Hokage joined the three lords down on the floor and yelled for all to hear, "Silence." This action shut everyone up, and everyone gave their undivided attention to the Hokage. "Everything you have heard today is correct. This young man's real name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, heir to the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans," the old man yelled with a sound amplification jutsu on his voice. He deactivated the jutsu and turned to Naruto and got on his knees and bowed low. "I'm sorry, Naruto, for everything this senile old man has done to you. I should have told you about your parents when you asked, but I was afraid that if you knew the truth you wouldn't like the Leaf Village and leave. Can you forgive a foolish old man like me?" Sarutobi said as he was bowing. At this point, everyone in the audience was amazed that the Hokage, the strongest ninja in the Leaf Village, was actually bowing to a genin and apologizing. Naruto smiled and lifted Sarutobi up. "I forgave you a long while ago for any mistakes you've made. Now can we continue with the exams?" Naruto asked, and Sarutobi just nodded and jumped back to the tower with the Kazekage, and the lords went back to the audience area to watch the rest of the fights. Naruto looked to where the center of the arena is and saw Genma and his opponent Gaara waiting for him. Naruto stepped up to the center and waiting for Genma's signal. "You both ready?" Genma asked, and both fighters just nodded. "Then begin." Genma jumped away but noticed that neither combatant moved an inch. Then, faster than anyone could see, Naruto grabbed something out of thin air and revealed a cork. Now, no need to throw things at me," Naruto said as he smiled. Gaara just growled and sent sand after him. Naruto just dodged to the side and kept on smiling. "Now that's interesting. I never thought I'd meet someone who could use sand attacks, but I guess it's not that far off for you holding the power of one. But remember this, the power of one is strong, but the power of 9 is even stronger." Naruto shouted, and Gaara's eyes widened. Then a menacing grin came to his face. "Mother wants your blood," Namikaze! Gaara shouted and sent a lot of sand after Naruto, who just grinned and made two hand signs and yelled fire style. Fire shockwave, after Naruto said that he clapped his hands together and then spread them apart, and from his hands bluish-white flames jutted out and hit the sand, turning it into glass. This must have pissed Gaara off, as the grin on his face was now gone and Gaara had a murderous scowl on his face. "Aw, did I destroy your little sand? Well, let me show you something that you'll like immensely." Naruto made 3 hand seals and yelled, "Sand style." Sand hurricane. And out of thin air sand was spinning around and enveloped the whole arena, and no one could see. Combatants waiting area. The Sand Village ninja were smirking up a storm when Naruto used that last jutsu. He's an idiot, giving Gaara all that sand to use. This will make the invasion easier to accomplish. Temari said, and her brother Kankuro was thinking the same thing. Kage viewing area. The Kazekage was watching with rapt attention as Naruto brew up a lot of sand. Then the Kazekage had a thought. This brat just made it easier to destroy the Leaf Village. With this much sand, Gaara can transform faster. The Kazekage smirked under his mask and continued to watch the battle. Arena. After a few minutes of waiting, Naruto decided enough was enough and made 2 hand seals and shouted sand style. Sand lance, and all the sand that once distorted everyone's view compressed into a long lance and charged at Gaara at inhuman speeds and pierced his shoulder. Gaara looked down and saw he was bleeding. Blood? This blood. My blood! Gaara shouted, and the next thing anyone knew was that there was feathers flying around and everyone in the civilian side of the audience was put to sleep while the ninja canceled the Genjutsu and ninja from the Sand Village, and the Sound Village started to pour into the stadium while Gaara's teammates came down and picked up Gaara and fled the stadium. "What's going on?" Naruto asked, not really knowing what's going on. "We're being invaded by sand and sound," Gamma said as he joined Naruto in the center of the ring. "Damn. My Zeke, Shino, Shikamaru, Sigu, Rai. Get your asses down here now." Naruto yelled into the stadium, and after a few seconds the 6 people that he called were in front of him. "Okay, I want Sigu and Mai to help evacuating the civilians and protecting them while the invasion is going on. Shino and Shikamaru, you guys are to head to the academy and help with the evacuation of the students. Zeke and Rai are to head to the Hokage Tower and protect it. That place is bound to be attacked," Naruto said as he took full command, even though Zeke was ranked higher than him. "And what are you going to do?" Zeke asked as the rest of the team jumped to do their jobs. "Me? I'm going hunting. Now go, I don't want anything stolen from this village." Zeke nodded and jumped off, joining Rai in protecting the Hokage Tower. Naruto watched until he was out of view, then he closed his eyes and started making hand signs while chanting. "Hunters of the night, eater of souls, my home is under attack and I request your help. I summon Kijimaru." At the end of the hand seal sequence, Naruto slammed his hand on the ground and a large seal array appeared on the ground, and black smoke erupted from the array and a loud, high-pitched screech, and if loud and high-pitched can be the same, but I'm using them ATM, erupted in the arena, and all battling ceased to look at the rising black smoke. "Who dares summon me? Kijimaru? And where are my souls?" Kijimaru said as he showed himself from the black smoke. He was a gigantic raven that easily matched the Hokage monument in size. Kijimaru was a jet black color with blood-red eyes that gazed down onto Naruto's person. "So you summoned me? What do you need done?" Naruto looked at the gigantic raven and bowed. "Kijimaru, my home is being invaded by the Sound Village and the Sand Village. Could you help defend my home from those with a musical note and an hourglass on their headbands?" "I will do this, as the Shinigami holds you in high regards, Uzumaki-san," Kijimaru said, then screeched and disappeared. After that random sound, and sand ninjas started falling dead. Naruto watched as they were falling and looked towards the rising sand coming from outside the village walls. Time for some raccoon hunting. Last time. Naruto watched as the bodies all around him were falling and looked towards the rising sand coming from outside the village walls. Time for some raccoon hunting. Shino and Shikamaru. Shino and Shikamaru had just gotten to the academy to see that the students were being evacuated and the Chunin instructors were guiding them to the hidden hatch behind the school. Shino saw Irika and pointed to him to tell Shikamaru where he was. Both boys walked up to Irika, who was barking orders to the other Chunin, when he noticed Shino and Shikamaru coming towards him. "Hey Shika. Hey Shino, what are you doing here? I thought you'd be at the arena helping clear that out," Irika asked as both boys stopped in front of him. "I think Naruto-san has cleared that area out. We came here under his orders to help out with the evacuation of the students," Shino said as he evaluated the situation. "And from my evaluation, you have everything under control." "Yes, everything is running smoothly. Within a matter of minutes, every academy student and Chunin teacher will be safe in Teach." Irika was interrupted by a raggedy, baritone voice. Well, what do we have here? A couple genin and a Chunin? This should be easy, then we will kill the academy students," a sound ninja said. Shino and Shikamaru turned and saw a bulky sound ninja leading a team of 5 sound ninja and 5 sand ninja. Shino turned his head slightly so he could look at Irika without having to turn his back on the enemy. "Irika-sensei, it would be wise for you to continue the evacuation while we deal with these ninja." Irika looked shocked and was about to object until he looked into both Shino's and Shikamaru's eyes. Irika nodded and turned to deal with evacuating the last of the students. "I don't think so. Get him," the squad leader said, and a sand and sound ninja jumped to pursue but was stopped by a wall of chakra eating bugs and dropped dead from chakra drain. "So there's an Aburame and an unknown. Okay squad, kill them." When he commanded them, none of them moved. Hell, he couldn't even move. He shadow imitation jutsu complete. "Thanks for the distraction, Shino," Shikamaru exclaimed as he held the rat hand seal. Shino just nodded and started doing hand seals. The leader saw this and started to laugh. "Ha ha ha ha, an Aburame doing a non-bug jutsu. That's just rich." The squad leader bellowed out a laugh, but that laugh was definitely short-lived when they felt Shino's chakra spike and him say, "Earth style, earth bullet," and shot out 7 earth bullets from the ground in front of him and killed the remaining ninja who were still caught in Shikamaru's jutsu, even though Shikamaru released his jutsu a second before the impact. "Nice Shino, all kill shots. Usually you leave one alive. Your aim is definitely improving," Shikamaru said as he examined all the bodies. Then a resounding boom caught everyone's attention, and the resounding "Naruto, why have you summoned me?" threw everyone off except for 6 people who knew the sound of that voice. "Naruto must need help if he summoned him," Shino said as he watched the giant puff of smoke. Just then, another 20 or so sound and sand ninjas jumped into the academy courtyard. "Shikamaru, I think things just got a little difficult," Shino said as he grabbed 2 round orbs from his belt and prepared to throw them. Shikamaru nodded and pulled out 2 curved daggers. "Let's give them hell," Shikamaru yelled as he charged and Shino threw the orbs. Rai and Zeke had just gotten to the tower to see that it was still standing and all the security seals were in place. They also saw 2 5-man squads of ANBU surrounding the tower, all in hidden places. Rai and Zeke looked to the other and nodded, taking up places in the direct front of the tower. 5 minutes after they took up guard, the tower was surrounded by 35 sound and sand ninjas, who didn't notice the ANBU move to get a better advantage. "Well, look here, boys. Only 2 guarding the tower. And Orochimaru-sama thought we'd need more. This will be simple," the leader of the squad said to his group with arrogance. Rai and Zeke just looked to the other and made an ANBU hand sign not noticed by the sand and sound ninjas and nodded. Rai quickly did 3 hand seals and slammed his hand on the ground and yelled, "Summoning Jutsu," and a cloud of smoke erupted and obscured Rai and Zeke. When the smoke cleared, it showed a black praying mantis with red tribal tattoos all over his body. The mantis looked back at Rai and clicked. "Why have you summoned me, Rai-san?" "My home is under attack and Naruto-sama," explained later, "wants the tower guarded. In front of you are roughly 35 enemies. I request your help in defeating these enemies," Rai said as he pulled out his katana. The mantis looked at the enemies and nodded. "I will help, Rai-san." Rai looked to Zeke and saw him brandishing his sayas that Naruto gave him. The blades were black and the hilt was covered by simple medical tape. Zeke looked at Rai and nodded. Rai, Zeke, and the mantis disappeared from view and reappeared in the center of the group, and 5 ninjas just dropped with blood gushing from their slit necks or the holes in their necks. They disappeared again and appeared on the outside of the group. 5 more dropped. They would have done the same, but they were interrupted by a loud voice shouting, "Naruto, why have you summoned me?" Rai and Zeke looked at the horizon where smoke was rising into the air, then thought the same thing. "What have you gotten yourself into, Naruto-sama?" Mai and Sigu had just arrived at the civilian sector of the village to see the civilians running towards the shelter. If they had to make a guess, they would say that 65% of the civilian population made it to the shelters and just waiting for the last of the population to arrive. Mai and Sigu were just watching the population evacuate to the shelters until 5 sound and sand ninjas stopped in front of the advancing civilians. He, look at what we have here. A bunch of sacrifices for Orochimaru-sama. A sound ninja said as he looked menacingly at the civilians who were stopped in front of them. "Get them. Bee style. Bee barricade," a new voice said as a wall of bees formed in front of the advancing ninjas. 3 of the ninjas got away safely, but 2 of them were caught in the wall and killed violently by bee stings. "You're not getting these civilians until you make it through us," Sigu said as he dropped in front of the ninjas with Mai right next to him. "Hey, a couple bee users. You guys aren't a match for us with how your clan was killed off. Now let me show you the greatest fire jutsu in the whole Sound Village," the squad leader exclaimed as he started hand seals. He finished and took a deep breath in fire style. Hydra of the underworld. And out of his mouth came a white flame in the shape of a 3-headed dragon. Mai just looked at the jutsu and scoffed. "That's an ultimate fire jutsu? Naruto-kun's personal fire jutsu is better than that by 10 times. My questions then made 4 hand seals for a jutsu Naruto gave her. Water style. Grand water wall. Water from the air formed a huge wall before Mai and the civilians and looked like a cascading waterfall. Sigu just smirked and quickly made 23 hand seals and put his hands on the waterfall and called out, "Water style. Mass water spear." And out of the wall came another wall, but this wall was made of spears and killed off the other 3 shocked ninja that their ultimate fire jutsu was stopped so easily. Mai turned and looked at the stunned civilians and yelled, "Everyone to the shelters! Now!" After that, everyone started running toward the shelters again, with the occasional enemy ninja attempting to stop their progress. When everyone made it to the shelters, Mai and Sigu were the last to enter, and when they did, they released all of their hives and lined the walls with bees. Then they took point at the chasm that formed the shelters in the Hokage monument. After a few minutes, guarding them all felt a rumbling and could hear a voice talking outside the monument. "Naruto, why have you summoned me?" Mai just looked through the wall right at Naruto's position and thought, "Be safe and come back to me, Naruto." And, "I bet you guys are just waiting to know what Naruto summoned, aren't you? Well, you may find out. Or maybe not. Depends on my mood." Naruto followed the sand trio till they were outside the walls of the village, and they stopped in a clearing where another was waiting for them. The sand trio landed next to the man. The man was a middle-aged man around 29 to 35 years of age. And I don't know how to describe how Rashi looks, but it's him, but he's wearing a head guard like the second Hokage if he isn't already wearing one. Naruto landed across the clearing facing the 4 enemy ninja. They had a silent stare down, until Naruto broke the silence. "This is where I stop you from advancing. I'm not going to let you destroy my village. And I'll let you know the name of the guardian of the hidden leaf, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, the summoning king." Naruto shouted the last part as he summoned his Naginata to his hands and took a loose on guard position. "You're outnumbered and outmatched, but I'll tell you my name. Rashi Kazana, the lava monkey," Rashi declared as he took an on-guard position with a kunai in the reverse position. "I'm Temari no Sabaku, the desert rose," Temari exclaimed as she opened her fan and sung back and held until she needed to swing. "I'm Kankuro no Sabaku, the puppeteer," Kankuro said as he pulled out his puppet and took a loose on-guard position. I'm Gaara no Sabaku, the sand menace Gaara said menacingly as he was grinning like a madman. Well, this will be interesting. I'm not holding back. I hope you don't hold back, Naruto said, and he slammed his Naginata into the ground and took off his vest and shirt, revealing his tattooed chest. He threw the shirt and vest away, and when they touched the ground, it made a crater at least 10 feet in diameter. Next, his tattoos brightened and disappeared back into his skin. He picked up his Naginata and took a few test swings. Then the next thing anyone knew, the sound of metal on metal rung and showed that Naruto and Rashi were having a battle of strength. Gaara sent a wave of sand at Naruto, who just backflipped and avoided the sand while parrying the combat puppet from Kankuro. Wind style. Great breakthrough, Temari exclaimed as she swung her fan and sent a blast of wind at Naruto, who made a few hand signs and slammed his hand on the ground. Wood style. Wood wall. A wall of wood appeared between Naruto and the blast of wind coming at him. But the next jutsu shocked him incredibly. Lava style. Lava wave. Rashi yelled as a wave of lava erupted beneath him and charged at the wood wall, and once it touched the wall burst into flames. Naruto had to jump to avoid the lava. When he landed on the lava and wasn't getting burnt, everyone was shocked. How can you stand on lava and not get burnt? That's impossible unless you can use the lava sub-element, Rashi exclaimed with shock. Well, I do have every element known to man. But this isn't the time to talk, Naruto said as he created clones of all different kinds, ranging from lava clones, water clones, and even wood clones. He commanded the lava clones to attack Gaara and keep his sand back. He commanded his water clones to attack Kankuro, and he commanded his wood clones to attack Temari, while he himself attacked Rashi. Naruto charged at speeds that would make Guy go even more bug-eyed, and slammed the staff end of the Naginata into Rashi and sent him into the air. Naruto jumped and swung the blade at Rashi's head, attempting to cut it off, but Rashi blocked it and was sent to the ground and made a small crater. Naruto landed outside the crater and slipped into a loose on guard stance and waited for the dust to clear. Once the dust cleared, it showed Rashi, but his attire was ripped to shreds and his helmet came off, revealing a seal of some sorts. Naruto thought he recognized some of the seals, but he'd need a closer look in order to tell for certain. Naruto made a darkness clone and told him to restrain Rashi with his darkness style. Chains from the void. What is this? Why can't I move? Rashi exclaimed angrily. Naruto just ran up to Rashi and started to inspect the seal on his head. A memory alteration seal, a berserking seal, a commanding seal, and a suicide seal. This must be the work of Orochimaru of the Sannin. Luckily for me, I've seen this combination before and can remove it, Naruto said as he made 34 hand seals and exclaimed, Mind Control Seal. Release, and Naruto's hands glowed in auburn and slammed his hands on Rashi's forehead and the seal disappeared. Rashi fell to the earth unconscious, but the next thing shocked him. Lava started to rise from the ground and surround Rashi's body. The lava rose into the air and formed a huge four-tailed lava monkey. What can I destroy? The monkey yelled, but another yelled scared Naruto to the 9th level of hell. I'm free. Yahoo! Naruto turned and saw that a giant sand raccoon was behind him. Fuck, I'm screwed. 2 released demons. Damn, I have to summon him. Naruto jumped a good half a mile and made 3 hand seals and chanted reborn from the ashes of fire. 1 of eternal life. I summon you, the great Kusuai. Naruto then slammed his hand on the ground and a complicated seal array appeared beneath him. Then smoke rose from the center of the seal where Naruto was located and shot up. From within the smoke you can tell that there's a figure in the smoke, but it's too obscured to tell what it is. Then everyone heard a shout. Naruto, why have you summoned me? Naruto versus Rashi. Kusuai and Naruto just stayed in the air watching as Rashi, or the 4-tailed monkey, looked at the spot where the 1-tailed raccoon was. The giant monkey then shifted its gaze to the bird and gave Kusuai a death glare. This is where you die, bird. The 4 tails yelled and fired multiple lava bullets at Kusuai, who dodged them elegantly. Naruto could tell that 4 tails was getting mad as he just kept on firing lava at them without aiming. Kusuai, I need you to get in close and I may be able to wake Rashi up. Naruto said as he made 5 hand seals and his fingertips started to glow purple with the 5 kanji for the elements on each one. Kusuai nodded and just charged the demon and dodging the bullets. As the bird got in close, the demon took a swipe at Kusuai, which he dodged, but Naruto jumped right onto the arm and ran up it to get to Rashi. However, his running was interrupted by mini 4 tails was beginning to form on the arm. Shit, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Without hand seals, 10 Narutos came into existence and charged ahead with their arms covered with water chakra. As the first wave of clones hit 3 clones, the first 5 demons erupted into steam and all the clones moved up with Naruto running right behind them. After the clones dug through the demons, Naruto jumped onto the head and slammed his hand onto Rashi's forehead, and Rashi woke up right there. "What happened? Why didn't you kill me?" "I'm just a monster," Rashi exclaimed as the demons started to dissolve and both Naruto and Rashi started to fall back to the ground. Kusuai was about to go and catch Naruto, but Naruto signaled him to let him fall with his brothers. Kusuai nodded and landed on the ground and oversaw what was going to happen. Naruto fell to the ground and landed on his feet, albeit just barely, and Rashi landed flat on his back near Gaara. Naruto limped up to the 2 containers and looked at both of them. "You both know, don't you?" They both just looked at Naruto with confusion on their faces. "You both know what it is to truly be alone, don't you? To be hated by all and loved by few. I know this pain as well as you both," Naruto said as his eyes glassed over a little bit. "What do you know of loneliness? I saw at the stadium how you looked at that female grass ninja. You looked at her like she was your lifeline," Gaara asked with confusion. "That happened just recently, and to tell you the truth, I don't trust her just yet. Years upon years of people betraying me just to try and kill me has taken its toll on me. There were only 3 people that I could safely put my life in their hands. Those people are Sarutobi Hijirin, Ayam, and her dad at the ramen stand in town," Naruto said as he smiled at some of the memories he shared with those 3. "But after the second test of the Chunin exams, I got to know 3 grass nins, and they became great friends of mine, with one becoming my girlfriend. And I got 2 more friends who I can trust my life with. We became a team with great strategies, and after I'm done here, I'm going to request that we stay as a team." "Is this how you're strong? Having friends?" Rashi asked. "Only having friends doesn't make one strong. Protecting those precious to you with your life is what makes one strong," Naruto said, "Do either of you have someone precious? Someone you wish to protect with your life?" "Yes, my brother and sister, even though I don't show it, I do find them to be precious," Gaara said after some thought. "Yes, even though she has long passed, I do still find her precious," Rashi said, remembering that someone. Then Naruto, being Naruto, said, "Do you guys wish for another to be put on that list? If you're willing to try, I will be your friend." At this point, Gaara's brother and sister woke up and ran over to Gaara to make sure he's safe. As they were about to leave, Gaara told them to wait a minute. "Naruto Uzumaki, I accept your offer. I'll talk to you later, brother." After that, Gaara and his siblings ran back to their hidden village. Naruto turned his head back to Rashi, who was looking at him with respect. "So Rashi-san, do you have a place to return to?" Naruto asked as he walked over to him. "No, after Orochimaru put those seals on me, I went berserk in my home village and was labeled a missing nin. I have nowhere to go," Rashi said with sadness in his voice. "All right, hold on. Kusuai, can you take Rashi back to my complex?" Kusuai nodded and picked him up in his talons, careful not to hurt him. Before Kusuai left, he turned to Naruto and said, "You have a heart of pure gold, Naruto-san. No matter what the circumstances are, you always look for the best in people. Many look for this." Kusuai then flew toward the direction of Naruto's compound. "I know, my friend. I know," Naruto said, then dropped to his knees and prayed for all of his fallen comrades, humans or not. Then Naruto looked to the stadium and saw the barrier. "I got to get to the stadium. Shit, I only have 10% of my chakra left. I have to run, I guess," Naruto said, then ran to the stadium. In the village. As Naruto was running through the village, he only saw several people from the leaf that was dead, and the majority of the dead on the streets were invading ninja. There was only 1 or 2 leaf ninja on each street. But as he got more into the village, one could notice the damage that happened because of the invasion. Buildings were destroyed, streets were torn up, fires were still roaring. It was chaotic. But when Naruto got to the barrier that held the Hokage and Orochimaru, that was where the most damage was. But what made Naruto's blood boil was that Orochimaru was pulling a sword through the Hokage by chakra strings. But the Hokage was holding on to Orochimaru, and it looked like Orochimaru was in immense pain but had this evil smirk on his face. "Ha ha ha, Sarutobi, you're going to die. I'll be able to get my arms back, but you'll be dead and the leaf destroyed. Now go to hell." With that, Sarutobi's chest burst open with the hilt finishing its voyage through the Hokage and cancelled the jutsu that Sarutobi was using. Naruto was furious, seeing one of the only people who he could trust die by a madman. Naruto looked around him till he found an ANBU in white, which signified a captain. Naruto went up to him. "Excuse me, ANBU-sama?" The ANBU looked to Naruto and nodded, signifying him to continue. "I have a way to get to Sarutobi-sama, but you need to delay the 4 guards and trust me." The ANBU sat still for a few minutes. Then he finally answered, "Okay, I'll trust you. But what are you going to do?" Naruto just looked at him, then around the barrier to see around 30 ANBU at the barrier. Then he turned back to the captain and said, "I'm going to release 8 tails worth of the fox's chakra. And before you ask, I have full mastery up to 8 tails. I can break through this barrier and get to the old man if you let me take out Orochimaru and you take care of his guards." Naruto said, then turned to the surrounding ANBU to see that the few around him were reaching for their weapons just in case. "Okay, but if you go berserk, I'm gonna have to kill you. Do you understand?" Naruto said nothing, just nodded and motioned for the captain to stand back and started releasing the 9-tailed fox's chakra. Pretty soon Naruto's eyes turned red with slits in them, his nails became claws, his whisker birthmarks darkened considerably, his hair became even more unruly, and his canine teeth became fangs. But the thing that everyone saw first was the shroud of red chakra that formed the body of a fox around Naruto, with 4 tails and increasing in number every second. Pretty soon he was at the 8 tails he told the captain he'd go to, and he turned to him and spoke with a demonic-like voice, "Enbyu-sama, please have your men follow directly behind me into the barrier and take out those guards." The captain nodded and motioned everyone to him and explained what was going on. Everyone was a little skeptic at first, but then nodded in agreement. When everyone was ready, Naruto took point and charged at the barrier with blinding speeds, and punched forward, and out of his hand came a red chakra hand that slammed into the barrier, and immediately you could notice that the barrier had that breaking glass effect. Every part of the barrier just started to fall to the ground immediately and shatter again. Naruto rushed forward faster than before and slammed his fist right into Orochimaru's head and sent him flying. Naruto quickly followed up and tried to claw at him again, but Orochimaru quickly blocked the attack with the grasscutter longsword and quickly went to counterattack, but Naruto dodged by jumping to the right. "Do you want to know something, Orochimaru?" Naruto asked as he stood across from Orochimaru, who said nothing and just stood there. "I can't be a medic ninja. Do you want to know why?" Orochimaru decided to humor the boy before he died. "Sure, I'd be happy to know why." Naruto just chuckled before he disappeared and reappeared behind Orochimaru, bringing his claws and shredding his arm off at the shoulder and cauterizing the wound right there and making Orochimaru scream in obvious pain. "Because being a container for a tailed beast has made my human chakra toxic to all those around me. And medic needs work on injecting healing chakra into another person's body. If I were to try and inject healing chakra into someone else, they would suffer from chakra poisoning. What I just did to you was take your arms away and injected some of my chakra into your system. If I were to guess, if you didn't get treated right away, you have 5 months to live," Naruto said as he gave Orochimaru a death glare. Orochimaru gave one in return. "What have you done? You took away my jutsu. I'm going to kill you," Orochimaru yelled as he charged with his grass cutter in his mouth, aiming for the container. Naruto followed Orochimaru's movement and at the last possible second sidestepped and gave Orochimaru an elbow to the temple, but he turned to mud. And when Naruto found him, he was charging again, but to close to completely dodge. So Naruto grabbed the sword by the blade, cutting himself very much, and slamming his fist into Orochimaru's face, making him loose grip of the grass cutter. When Orochimaru got up, he noticed that he was surrounded by his guards that looked horrible. They all had gashes that were bleeding horribly. The big guy had a huge gash on his stomach and his left arm was missing. Other than that, it was just gashes, bruises, and swollen prides. The ANBU captain came up and said, "Orochimaru, for your crimes against the hidden leaf, you are under arrest. Come quietly or we'll kill you." Orochimaru just laughed and started to disappear into the ground with his guard. And before he disappeared completely, he gave them a death glare and yelled, "I will destroy the Leaf Village one way or another, just you wait." And with that, he disappeared completely. When the captain looked back at Naruto to congratulate him, he just saw Naruto coming out of his fox cloak and quickly falling to the ground exhausted. Before he hit the ground, however, the captain caught him. Naruto looked up and saw the captain. "Could you take me to see the old man? I have enough will to stay conscious that long, but that long only. Ugh, I may have complete control over that form, but it tires me out greatly." Naruto shared a chuckle with the ANBU, who agreed to take him to the deceased Hokage. He laid him down and Naruto just looked over to the Hokage and said, "I hope you're happy, old man, and I hope you're proud of what I've become." With that, Naruto passed out. The ANBU captain watched the exchange and smiled behind his mask. He went and picked up Naruto and yelled for everyone in the stadium to hear. Naruto Uzumaki is a hero. He saved the Hidden Leaf Village by scaring OFF Orochimaru and taking his sword, the grass cutter. Everyone in the stadium, regardless of their views of him, cheered. The ANBU then took Naruto to the ANBU hospital to get treated for an extreme case of chakra exhaustion. Time skip. 4 days later. Beep. 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 Ugh, not the hospital again, Naruto said as he just regained consciousness. Naruto tried to open his eyes only to close them because of the sun being too bright. When his eyes adjusted, he noticed that he wasn't in his usual room in the hospital. He was in a different room. Still the base white color all hospitals have, but the arrangement and equipment was different. He couldn't explain because he didn't have any medical tech knowledge, but it was different from the others he's seen. "I see you're awake. That's amazing. Even though I've heard the rumors how fast you heal, it's still amazing," a voice said from the corner of the room. When Naruto looked over to the corner, he saw the ANBU captain who was at the barrier. "Where am I? And what are you doing here? If you don't mind me asking, sir," Naruto asked as he tried to sit up straight, but was pushed back down by the captain. "Relax. You're in the ANBU exclusive hospital. And I'm here because I have a question for you, young sir," the captain said as he sat in a chair next to the bed. "What am I doing in this hospital? Shouldn't I be in the regular one? And what is it?" Naruto asked quickly. "I brought you here because of what I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask if you wish to join ANBU in a special division that only a select few ever learn about. Of course, this would have to go through my boss and his boss when we get a new one anyways, but I saw firsthand what you could do with the fox's chakra at 8 Tails. Imagine what you could do if you got ANBU training. You'd be one of, if not the strongest person in the village or possibly the entire nations," the captain said with a lot of excitement in his voice. "I don't know, sir. I'd have to think about it. I want to make a team out of several people, but if I joined ANBU, I couldn't do that. If you don't mind, could I have a week to think about it?" Naruto asked as he was surprised about being asked to join an organization as strong as the ANBU. It was unreal. The captain looked like he was thinking. Then after a few minutes he nodded and said, "Yes, I will give you 1 week to decide. But I have to ask, what is this team you're making or want to make?" "It's a team that will send us in first to do dangerous missions before others. We may be genin at the moment, but we'd grow strong and be able to do it. Oh, and I have a question. When is the Hokage's funeral?" Naruto asked. "It's later today. I can bring you to your place so you can get ready for it. I know of your bond with the deceased Hokage," the captain said, and when Naruto nodded, the ANBU detached all the machines off of Naruto and disappeared in a swirl of leaves and wind. Naruto's compound. When the ANBU and Naruto appeared, they were outside the rundown apartment complex, and the ANBU looked at Naruto questionably. Naruto just sighed and told the ANBU to follow him inside. When they got inside, they saw a very cleaned-up apartment building that was made into a compound, basically. Like the ones the clans have, although it's not as big. The bottom of the complex was the kitchen, hospital-like room, weight/training room, and armory. Upstairs is where the quarters were for everyone, except Naruto, who made the third floor his room. When the ANBU and Naruto got to the third floor, the ANBU was surprised to see that it was a relatively cleaned-up apartment. Had 5 rooms altogether: the master bedroom, the bathroom, the living room, the kitchen, and a storage room for Naruto's personal stuff. Naruto turned to the ANBU. "Make yourself at home. I need to take a shower before I get dressed. And feel free to explore the whole complex. Just one thing, I have a patient in the hospital-like room. Don't do anything drastic, please. He was a reject from his village because he's like me. I want to give him a new start." And with that, Naruto went into the bathroom to take his shower. The ANBU decided to explore Naruto's apartment to see what the container lived like. The kitchen was stocked with a very healthy diet, with just a few containers of instant ramen here and there. But there were more vegetables and fruits than there were ramen. The bathroom was fairly bigger than most bathrooms. Had a bath/shower combo, a full body mirror, and white tiled floors. The master bedroom was a sight to see. The walls were painted with an ocean view to it, with the forests on one wall. But on the nightstand there was a picture of Naruto with the deceased Hokage. The storeroom, however, was filled to the brim with exotic weapons. There were kusarigamas that were made from demon mantis claws. There was a sword made from a demon's fang. There was a dagger made from some sort of material that sucked chakra out of someone. These were only a few weapons that were found. But the ANBU was pulled toward a weapon in the back corner. When the ANBU approached the corner, he found that it was a Zanbatsu. Spelling? But it looked different than the normal ones. The width of the blade was easily 2 times the width of an average human body's. The hilt was about 3 feet in length. The blade part was serrated on the tip of the blade, and as it went down the blade toward the hilt, the serrated edge became more teeth-like, had more of a curve to it. But on the flat of the blade was a white tiger wearing a gold crown, getting ready to pounce. When the ANBU grabbed the weapon, he felt his hand get pricked and his blood drained for a second before he let go. The sword glowed for a minute before it suddenly levitated and flew at the ANBU. The ANBU just grabbed the hilt of the weapon and held it for a minute. Well, it seems that the sword chose its wielder. The ANBU turned around and saw Naruto standing there wearing his black funeral clothes. "What do you mean, chose its wielder? Are you telling me this sword is sentient?" the ANBU asked, sounding surprised. "There are few swords in this world that choose their wielders, and they are the sentient ones. What you're holding is a sentient sword, and by all rights it belongs to you now," Naruto said as he stepped into the room. "I know how to wield every weapon in here, but I only feel comfortable using my naginata and my katana. Take the sword and train well. I'm sure the spirit of the sword will contact you soon to begin your training. Now let's go to the funeral. I want to see the old man one more time," Naruto said as he waited for the ANBU to transport them to the funeral. Everyone showed up for this occasion. Everyone was wearing black and nothing out of the ordinary. Even Guy was wearing plain black clothes. At this very moment, there's a funeral going on for the 3rd Hokage and everyone who had died in the invasion of their home. In the village square was pictures of everyone who died, with the Hokages in the middle. Right by these pictures was the Hokage's old teammates Hamura and Koharu. Everyone was also holding a white rose, either for their loved ones who passed on or for their beloved Hokage. Koharu stepped forward and said a few words about the Hokage, followed by the Hokage's immediate family. After the Sarutobi family said their words, Koharu stepped forward again. "Is there anyone that would like to say one last thing before we give the Hokage his burial?" Naruto stepped forward. "I would like to, if everyone here wouldn't mind listening to the demon brat. Well, actually, I'd like to sing a song in honor of the Hokage," Naruto said, and the woman looked over to her old teammate who still lives, and he nodded. "Okay, Naruto will allow it. Is it just you singing?" Koharu asked. "Yes, although I'm gonna have a clone use another instrument while I'm playing a violin," Naruto said as he made a clone and unsealed a violin and guitar and handed it to the clone. They both stepped forward and up to the altar made for the deceased, and Naruto shouldered his violin and the clone put the guitar strap over his shoulder. To the men and women who died in the invasion, may they rest in peace. Naruto started playing his violin in a soft tone, and after a few seconds the clone started playing. That's when Naruto started singing in a deep baritone voice. And this is called All I Ask for Anymore by Trace Adkins, and this is a dedication to the military all around the world. May God guide everyone home safely. It was a home run when the game was tied. A pickup truck when I could drive. One pink line when Katie said I'm late. It was a passing grade, a pretty girl. All the money in the world. What mattered then kept changing every day. But when I bowed my head tonight, there'll be no me, myself, and I. Just watch my wife and kids, please, Lord. That's all I ask for anymore. By this time, everyone in the audience was bowing their heads, thinking of everyone who they lost and rethinking their opinion of Naruto. Naruto was openly crying and wasn't afraid to let anyone see. Nowadays, it's crazy how a passing storm, a siren sound, can make me drop it all and pick up the phone. To hear her say that all's okay is all I need to know these days. Can't wait to see their faces when I get home. And when I bowed my head tonight, there'll be no me, myself, and I. Just watch my wife and kids, please, Lord. That's all I ask for anymore. Here is when Naruto started having flashbacks of his younger years, when the Hokage taught him how to play the violin and guitar, and when they would just laugh at meaningless topics and just all of the happy times they both shared. Let them outlive me by 100 years. Let their laughter dry up all their tears. Let them love and be loved back, like I have been. When I bowed my head tonight, there'll be no me, myself, and I. Just watch my wife and kids, please, Lord. That's all I ask for anymore. That's all that matters anymore. That's when the music started fading and Naruto said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Thanks, old man, for everything you've done. Not just for me, but for everyone here, whether they're alive or they're with you." Then Naruto turned around and noticed that everyone was on their knees bowing to the altar, even the Hokage's teammates. Naruto then shouted to everyone, "May the Hokage and everyone who's died in the invasion and times before rest in peace." That's when everyone looked up and yelled back, "Rest in peace, Hokage-sama and those fallen." After Naruto heard them yell, he disappeared using his shadow step. Hokage Mountain. Naruto reappeared on top of the Hokage Mountain, only to see Sarutobi's eldest son Asuma sitting on his father's head. Naruto walked up to him and asked, "May I join you?" Asuma turned his head to Naruto's direction and nodded. Naruto sat down and just stared out into the village as the sun was starting to set. After a few minutes, Naruto unsealed his violin and looked over to Asuma. "Do you mind if I play?" Asuma's response was to unseal a flute from a special seal over his heart. The flute was beautiful. It had an antique-looking polish and it looked like it could be an antique. "That's a beautiful flute. Where did you get it?" Naruto asked as he tuned his violin. "My mother gave it to me when I was 7 years old. When I was that young, I couldn't understand what its sentimental value of it was until my mother passed away." At this point, Asuma was looking at the flute in his hands. Then he spoke again. "When I was little, I would ask Mom if she could play me a song when I was going to bed. She was the best flute player I know. I still remember the song she played." Asuma said then he put the flute up to his lips and started playing a soft lullaby. After Naruto got the tempo down, he started playing his violin accompanying the flute. The sound traveled all through the village. Training Ground 7. Kakashi was once again staring at the memorial stone honoring his friends and those who passed on when he heard this very soft lullaby. At first Kakashi tried to ignore it, but after a few minutes of failing he gave in and listened to the song. After a little bit, Kakashi looked to his left and right and saw Obito and Rin, his two teammates, who he thought he'd never see again. At first they looked angry at him, then after they heard the music they looked calm, like they were at peace. Then Obito said one last phrase before he disappeared. "Those who disobey the rules are trash, but those who betray their comrades are worse than trash." Then they disappeared. Not a trace of them was left. Kakashi's eyes just widened at what he failed to do as a sensei. Then Kakashi left the training grounds to give Naruto a jutsu he should have done a while ago. Wolf Claw Weapons Store. Tenten and her dad were at the store after the funeral got over, and both were very quiet and contemplating what their value to the village was. Then they heard a lullaby that could calm the wildest of storms. Stop everyone in their tracks and listen. It'll be okay, Iroh and Tenten. Everyone will persevere through this trial in life. Both Tenten and Iroh turned around and saw someone who they thought they'd only see in the afterlife. Beatrice, Iroh's wife and Tenten's mom. Tenten looked at her mom in disbelief and ran to hug her, but she just ran right through her. Beatrice just walked up to Tenten and kissed her forehead and said, "I'm so proud of you." Then just like that she disappeared. And everywhere in the village, whenever people heard this lullaby, they saw a dead relative or friend that they had a strong bond to. And from there everyone was at ease. Hokage Monument. As Naruto and Asuma played their instruments, slowly two figures appeared behind both players. Behind Naruto, a tall blonde man with blue ninja pants, a black long-sleeved shirt with a Jonin jacket over it, and over everything a white coat with red flames. And next to this man was a woman with fiery red hair and emerald green eyes. These two people were Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's parents. Behind Asuma, his parents, Hijirin and Hope Sarutobi, stood proudly behind their son. One was looking over the village with a protective look, and the other was looking at Asuma with a motherly look. Hijirin was dressed in civilian clothes like he would when he was off duty and around the Sarutobi compound, jeans and a t-shirt with an ape on the front of it, and in his hands his trusty pipe. Hope was also dressed in civilian clothes, a red sundress with blue trim, but in her hands was a flute exactly like the one Asuma was currently playing. Naruto and Asuma continued to play while their parents' image stayed behind them just watching. After they stopped playing, Asuma and Naruto could clearly hear their parents say, "We're proud of you, son." And Wei was their image, not to be seen until they pass into the afterlife. Asuma and Naruto looked towards each other and grabbed each other's arm and shook. Then they both left. Unknown to both of them, they had an audience hiding in the bush behind them. And when the light hit the person just right, it showed a metal headband with the symbol for the village hidden in the clouds. The next day, reconstruction began and everyone was helping out. Well, except the old guys on the council. Tsum Inuzuka was probably the only councilor member to help. Anyways, you saw everyone doing what they could to rebuild their destroyed home. You saw civilians building with hammers and nails. You saw genin carrying away wood and other destroyed materials, and you also saw some chunin taking away destroyed materials. The jonin would be helping to make sure that nothing fell apart and to use the occasional jutsu to help. Now I'll bring you to what Naruto's doing. With style for pillar defense, now this jutsu could not really be used for an attacking jutsu, but it can be used for rebuilding. All Naruto did was make the four corners of the house and let the civilians or whoever build the rest. Naruto was about to do it again until an Anbu appeared behind him. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the council requests your presence." Naruto nodded and disappeared by his darkness step, only to reappear in the council chamber with everyone there, including Tsum, who stopped reconstruction and appeared for this occasion. Naruto stood in the center of the room and waited for everyone. The council room was made of 3 levels. On the bottom level you have the civilian council who ran the civilian affairs but wormed their way into ninja affairs. In the middle row you have the ninja council made up of all the clan's elders. Then on the top row you have the Hokage's advisors and the Anbu captain. On the top level the only thing you saw was the shadows of the advisors and the glint of steel on a huge Zanbatsu. Koharu stood up and started the meeting. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. We're here today because of several different reasons. But the first one the civilians would like to say." Koharu sat down and a pink-haired woman stood up. "Demon, you're under arrest for the unjust maiming of one Sasuke Uchiha." The civilian council all started smirking at this until they saw Naruto smirk, and some of the ninja council snickered. "I'm sorry, but I did nothing that was against the law. Just like I said in the stadium, according to the Fire Lord, if one were to attack me, and the attack was not during a training session or competition, and I deem it life-threatening. I can take any course of action. Just be thankful that I only took his arm and not his head," Naruto said, smirking the whole time while a dumbstruck civilian council started to protest and yelled, "Shut up and stand down." A yell from the back row made itself known, and when everyone looked they saw the ANBU captain standing with his hands on the long-ass table. "Civilian council, you have wormed your way into ninja business, and being on the elder council I do not think you should be here. And I know the perfect law to get your asses out of here. According to the first Hokage, if a Hokage is to die in action, as in an invasion, then if one of the elder council members thinks a change is necessary, then a vote can be passed to put that change into effect. Meaning I call for a vote to remove the civilians from any and all ninja business meeting and they stay as a civilian council." All the clan heads raised their hands and Koharu raised his hand. And Danzo had a frown on his face. Hayashi Hyuga then stood and announced, "Then by the power of the Ninja Council, the Civilian Council is now excused from any and all ninja business. ANBU escort them out of here." Then ANBU came and took every civilian kicking and screaming out of the council chambers. After they were gone, Hayashi focused his attention on Naruto again. "Now on to the second reason that you're in this council chamber. I heard that the ANBU captain has offered you a position within the ANBU and let you have a little time to think. Now what's your choice?" Naruto looked at everyone on the council while he thought over his final decision. When he was done, he spoke with clarity and confidence. "I decline the offer." Everyone was shocked. To be promoted to ANBU was a rarity, but to be asked to be in ANBU by the captain himself is almost impossible. The captain then stood. "Please explain yourself, Naruto-san. I saw great promise in your ever-improving power. So please enlighten us." Naruto looked at him and said, "Okay, before I continue though, I would like your name, sir. And don't worry, this will be kept confidential. I would just like to know the name of one of my allies." The captain just looked at Naruto with a confused look, then a look of respect appeared on his face. "Okay, Naruto-san, my name is Kamikaze. No last name." Divine Wind? That's a good name. Anyways, I declined your offer because of the fact that I'm not strong enough to even be considered an ANBU. And plus, I would be away from my friends. I want to be strong, yes, but to be strong you need to find something precious to protect with your life. I have found what I want to protect, and that, honorable council, is my friends," Naruto said as he looked upon the council unmoving, unyielding. "Naruto-san, why do you say you're not strong? I personally saw you fight Orochimaru into him fleeing. You even destroyed his arms." The captain tried to persuade Naruto to the ANBU. But Naruto looked back with a fire in his eyes. A fire that said, "I will not back down from my beliefs." "Yes, but I had to use the fox's chakra. I had to use 8 tails of his power just to even have accomplished that. If he was prepared, I would not have been able to do what I did. So I wish to get strong with my friends," Naruto said with that same fire in his eyes. "Okay, I respect your decision. Now that's done, we have one more thing to discuss with you. We heard that your full name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. You had announced this at the Chunin exam finals. Is this true?" The captain said as he sat back down and unconsciously placed his hand on his sword. Naruto looked back to the council and nodded. "Yes, it is true. My father is Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage. My mother, though, was Kushina Uzumaki, the Red Death." Sum stood next and exclaimed, "Impossible, she wasn't married." Naruto just looked at her with a questioning stare until Tsum noticed and explained. "She was one of my best friends. She told me everything. We were considered sisters by some." Naruto just nodded. "To tell you the truth, I do not know. But I have a theory. Dad wanted his marriage a secret so his enemies wouldn't go after his family. But if I were to guess, the 3rd Hokage and probably Jiraiya known about it." Naruto said after thinking about it for a minute. Tsum sat down to contemplate how she could help her best friend's son. Shibi Aburame then stood, which shocked the council chamber. "Naruto-san, it has come to my knowledge that you had made a device to hold our hives so we can use elemental jutsu. Where is this device? And how does it work?" Naruto gained a smile on his face. "Ah yes, that. Well, you see, it is in possession of your son. And if an ANBU could bring him here, we could give a demonstration. And I will not reveal to everyone how it works, only the basics. I will give a detailed explanation later, Shibi-sama. Naruto said, and Koharu nodded to a hidden ANBU, who went to receive Shino, who was here in a few minutes. When Shino entered the council, he bowed and took a spot next to Naruto and waited until he was addressed. He didn't wait long as his dad stood. Shino, would you please show us the invention Naruto-san here came up with? Shino took a quick look to Naruto, which didn't go unnoticed by the rest of the council, and Naruto nodded and pulled out one of the 4 orbs that he has. Shibi walked up to his son and inspected it on a closer level. Shino, would you please show us an elemental jutsu? Shino nodded and made several hand signs and announced Earth Style. Mud Clone Jutsu. 2 exact replica appeared next to Shino. Shibi was amazed. He turned his head towards Naruto only to see 2 spheres headed towards him. He caught them and inspected them to see 2 of the same orbs that his son had. He looked back to Naruto and gave him a questioning look. I only have 2 on me at the moment. Later, as I tell you the secrets to tell your clan, I will show you personally how to make them. And by the way, I am not to take full credit for the creation of this tool. I had help from Shino and Shikamaru. Anyways, this orb runs off of chakra donated from different people. To power Shino's for about 3 months, Shikamaru, Shino, and I pump about half of our normal chakra into it. Naruto said, and Shibi nodded and sat back down. Okay, we got off topic. Anyways, since you announced your name as Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, we have to do a test to prove that you are indeed a Namikaze and the son of our 4th Hokage. Koharu said as she grabbed a scroll that was resting on the table in front of her and threw it at Naruto. That scroll was left by the 4th Hokage himself. He said that if anyone were to try to take on his name to try and open this scroll with a bit of his blood. I'm guessing he meant his family or his children. So open the scroll and tell us the truth. Are you Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze? Naruto looked at the scroll with his head down, his hair shadowing his eyes. He stood there for a couple of minutes, then he brought his head up to show the entire council his fire-filled eyes. He took the scroll in one hand and the flap in the other. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. As he yelled this, he opened the scroll and bit his thumb and swiped it over the 2 seals that were inside it. From the scroll, another scroll fell out with a note on it. Use this well. But one thing Naruto didn't see was a person also appeared from the scroll and land behind him. When the council gasped while looking behind Naruto, he turned and his eyes turned into plates. Behind him was someone he thought he'd never see. The 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Minato looked at the council, then to Naruto. He smiled, then put his hand on his shoulder. Hello, my son. I see you're ready to claim our family name like your mother and I. By accepting this scroll, you are accepting your mother and my own legacies. Inside that scroll is every jutsu we've made. Naruto was stunned. His dad was saying that this scroll had every jutsu that his parents made. Then Naruto looked at his dad with tears brimming his eyes. Thanks, Dad. And by the way, I made a new version of your Flying Thunder God jutsu. That's great, son, Minato said with a smile, knowing his son was already surpassing him. Then his face grew serious. He looked at the entire council. What have you told him? Shibi stood. We haven't told him anything. The only thing we really told him was to take the scroll and prove he was a Namikaze. He told us, though, that he declines an offer to join ANBU. His reason being that he wishes to stay with his friends. Minato turned to his son with a respectful glance. You are strong, my son, and you are wise. Staying with your friends will truly make you strong. Anyways, you must have made a Chunin if the council deemed you ready to learn of your heritage. Minato looked to his son, who had a confused look on his face. No, I haven't been promoted yet. Naruto looked to the council and saw Tsume get out of her seat with a green Chunin flak jacket with 2 fangs on the back with the Uzumaki Namikaze swirl in the middle. Tsume stopped in front of Naruto with the jacket in one hand and her other hand outstretched. Naruto-san, I will be the first to congratulate you and offer you an alliance with the Inuzuka clan. This jacket is proof of our kinship. I have offered this treaty because of your devotion to the village and to your fellow ninja. Naruto stood shocked for a minute before he snapped out of it and shook Tsume's hand. It'll be an honor, Inuzuka-sama. Naruto then took the jacket and put it on. Fit perfectly. Tsume went back to her seat and sat down while another man, Choza, stood up. Now Naruto-san, he spoke semi-formally, we have 2 missions that we have that would interest you. One is led by one of our loyal Sannin Jiraiya, and that is to find our newest Hokage Tsunade. Choza exclaimed this one idea while Minato put some input in. Naruto, Jiraiya was my sensei, and he will serve you well if you decide on this mission. The only thing that I will warn you about is that he is a pervert and probably won't train you till he absolutely has to. Minato explained. Choza spoke again. The next mission is to escort a film crew back to the land of snow with 5 genin under your command. As of this time, you may choose any 5 as most of the teams are missing a member or 2 due to injury. You were also specifically requested to lead this mission. Naruto stood there and thought for a moment. As much as it's tempting to travel with Jiraiya, I'll take the mission to snow. I need to get experience leading a team so I can have my own specialist squad in ANBU. The genin I choose are Tenten, Shino, Shikamaru, Rai, and Sigu. When do I leave, and can I have ANBU alert everyone of the departure time? I need to go get my gear together. Don't worry about Rai and Sigu. I'll tell them myself. Naruto asked as he chose the best candidates for the mission. The ANBU commander nodded to his hidden ANBU and they appeared next to Naruto. You will leave in 2 hours. Pack for a month-long mission. Naruto and the ANBU nodded. The ANBU left in a body flicker while Naruto stayed to say goodbye to his father. Minato looked to his son with a look of complete understanding and respect. So you dream about having a squad in ANBU? Following your old man, I see. That was my dream at first. My time is running short, so what I'll say is that your mother and I love you very much. Grow strong and I'll see you when your time comes. Naruto just nodded and hugged his dad one last time. I love you too, Dad. Naruto had tears brimming his eyes. This scene touched everyone's hearts. They separated and everyone saw the gentle smile that was on Minato's face. After a second, Minato disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto looked to the council. By your leave, honorable council. Kamikaze stood up with his sword in his hand. Just 2 more things, young one. The first one is that this council puts you under the CRA so that the Namikaze clan does not die out. But we will lower the requirements. You will need 3 wives by the time you turn 16. And number 2, I will personally be traveling with you until you reach the border of Fire Country. I need to stretch my legs. You are now dismissed, young one. Kamikaze then disappeared with Naruto following right behind him. Naruto's apartment complex. Naruto appeared right outside his apartment complex and quickly went inside. However, right in the lobby to the complex, he was surprised to see an ANBU waiting for him. This ANBU was wearing the traditional ANBU armor, with the sword attached to her back. She had long hair that goes to the mid of her back, and a moderate bust. She wore a cat mask. Naruto quickly bowed to the ANBU. Hello, ANBU-sen. How can I help you? Cat returned the bow and quickly said, Can we speak inside, away from prying ears? Naruto nodded and began to take her inside but had a quick detour to the hospital-like room where Rashi was still unconscious and hooked up to machines. However, what put the ANBU on guard was the panda that was hovering over the downed host. Naruto sensed her question and before she could ask answered it. The panda summons are the best healers in the summoning realm. And to tell you the truth, Tsunade had some training from the panda clan when she went to the summons realm for her sage training. He then looked to the panda. How's he doing? Then Panda turned to look at him. His health is making a comeback. When you summoned me to heal him, he had multiple bone fractures, several broken bones all over, internal bleeding, and severe lacerations on his torso and legs. But thanks to the combined efforts of his prisoner and my healing, he will recover with moderate scaring. If I were to guess, he'll be up and around in another few days. Okay, I have a mission to the land of snow that I have to deal with. When he wakes up, can you stay with him and help him around? I'll make sure I find someone trustworthy to bring food for him. Just make sure he doesn't leave this complex. He may travel to the dojo, the incomplete library, or the armory. But put him up in a room that's close to one of the other participants. And tell them to keep their eyes on him. I'm not worried about him turning on us. I'm worried for his mental health, Naruto asked as he looked to Rashi's downed form. The panda also looked to the host. Yes, I will do as you ask. Now I need to get back to doing some tests. Naruto nodded and left with the ANBU on his tail. Naruto told Rai and Sigu to get ready for mission and they immediately went to the armory. After that, the ANBU and Naruto made it to his room on the top floor. Naruto opened the door and let the ANBU in and told them to follow. Naruto led the ANBU to his personal armory. I hope you don't mind if I get ready for my mission while we talk, but I only have so much time. Naruto asked the ANBU and received a nod in return. I heard that you can summon every animal in the known world. Is that true? The ANBU asked Naruto as he was in the process of taking his clothes off to put his mission clothes on. Yes, I can. Why is there a specific summon you wish to meet? And what for, training, a clan summons, or to ask for a weapon forged from them? And may I ask your name? This will be kept confidential. Naruto asked as he was slipping into his ANBU style pants with built-in knee, shin, and ankle guards, but they don't hinder movement at all. As he was putting his shirt on, the ANBU answered. My name is Yugogo Yuzuki, and actually I was wondering if you could summon the lion summons? My family had a summoning pact with them, but before I could sign the scroll it was stolen by one of my family members. I just wanted to know who has the scroll, so I could retrieve it for my future family. Naruto was putting on an undershirt that had seals on it. Then he put on a chest piece that was similar to that of a samurai. But it looked like it would hinder movement. Naruto was actually moving like he wasn't hindered at all. On the chest was kanji for the immortals and gods chosen. Naruto then sat down and started to wrap his feet. Yes, I could summon them. However, I will have to do this when I come back. I need to go to the blacksmiths to get my order. So when I return from my mission, find me and I'll summon the scroll holder and ask him where the scroll currently is. Naruto then strapped his naginata and katana to his back in an X-strap. On his head he had a mask that was a samurai helmet but had an Oni mask on the front of a devil laughing. Okay, Naruto-san. And sometime would you like to spar? I see you're a sword user. Yugogo said as she stepped back to look at his uniform. That is very intimidating. Did you come up with the idea yourself? Naruto looked at himself and smiled. Yes, I did. And this is the uniform for my division in ANBU as soon as I get it approved by the Hokage. Yugogo smiled at his ambition and stuck her hand out. Well, it was nice to finally meet the Summoning King. And I wish you luck for your division. Naruto shook her hand and smiled. Thank you, and I wish you luck in your current goal. After that, Naruto and Yugogo left the apartments and split directions. Naruto to the blacksmiths and Yugogo to the ANBU headquarters. Blacksmiths. Naruto entered the blacksmiths to see Iroh sitting behind the counter reading a weapons magazine. When the bell rang, Iroh looked up and saw Naruto. Iroh got a shit-eating grin on his face. Naruto, my boy, how are you? Iroh asked as he came out from behind the counter to give Naruto a firm handshake. One that Naruto was all too happy then to return with a smile of equal proportions. I'm doing well, Iroh-san. I'm here for my order, Naruto said, releasing the handshake. Of course, I have it right here. And might I say it was fun doing this order. Iroh smiled and went behind the counter and reached down and grabbed a scroll with a note saying Naruto Uzumaki's order. Iroh placed it on the counter and finally noticed the Chunin jacket. Congratulations on making Chunin, my boy. In honor of that, I'll give you 50% off this order. And that total comes to $2,500. Thanks. I'm leading my first mission to the land of snow today, so I sort of need to head anyways. Here's the money. Naruto placed $3,000 on the counter. The extra $500 is a tip. Then Naruto disappeared in his darkness step. Main gate. Naruto reappeared at the front gate where his team was waiting. They all saw Naruto arrive and bowed. Naruto just laughed and said, "Everyone stand." We're all comrades here. Here are your helmets for this mission. If my goal comes true, you all will be part of my team. Naruto handed them the same helmets that he wore. Everyone put the helmets on and the eyes glowed for a second before the glow dimmed down. The only one who didn't put their helmet on was Tenten. Shino turned to Tenten. Would you please put your helmet on? It'll help everyone in the long run. Tenten looked to Naruto. Why would we wear helmets and masks? They will hinder our vision, won't they? Naruto just looked at her and chuckled a little bit. Put the helmet on and find out. I've had these helmets special ordered with seals put in place. Naruto said, and Tenten just listened and put the helmet on, and all she saw was darkness at first until she saw everything in perfect quality and she has perfect 180-degree vision. Holy shit, I can see better than with my normal eyes. Tenten exclaimed. Everyone else just chuckled at her. Okay, enough small talk, we need to meet our employer in a village on the border of fire and water. Naruto said, and he took off, and after a second everyone else followed.